I come before you with slight technical difficulties, okay? Apologies for that. Apologies for that. It might happen. It might happen again. Apologies for that. But that is the curse of Ham, okay? Why am I reading this? You know, it's in summary with what I'm going to speak about in this live stream, okay? Whether we as a community of so-called Black British people have failed or succeeded in forming a positive, cohesive, constructive so-called community in the UK. Okay. So again, this is a summary. This stream will be a summary of my dealings with the so-called Black Brits, the characters I've had to deal with, and the almost biblical way in that the street life or the confusion in a few nations, right, seems to line up one-to-one with the online communities, right? So later on in the stream, before I open it up, because of course it's a call-in show, I'm gonna present 5 archetypes. 5 archetypes. 5 archetypes of a ninja that has, in my opinion, failed the so-called community building of these so-called Black British people. And of course, I'm going to open up the lines, like I said, so you can have your say. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm right, but this is just my, this is just what I've seen over the almost year or so, okay? And so it aligns up with the curse of Ham, if we are just cursed people, right? So that's what we'll be dealing with in this stream. We will answer questions like, for example, why have pro-blacks, quote-unquote pro-blacks, assailed me in personal attacks and character the most? Okay. Or questions such as, why can't Black people organize as an effective community in the UK? Or maybe even questions like, who are the true enemies of Black British growth and prosperity? Okay. So that's what this live stream is about. So salute to everyone in the building, man. I already see some support in the chat. Let me big up Jesse, man. Jesse showing love in the last live stream, man. I appreciate that 10 on the plate, man. That 10 British pounds. You know, salute to Jesse, man. And check out his channels as well. A fellow UK Black British content creator as well. Okay, salute to you, Jess. I really appreciate that. We also got Shakanulu in the building as a member. Shout out to the member squad, man. Shakanulu, I appreciate you, man. Shakanulu is an OG in these spaces, man. So definitely check out Shakanulu, man. But salute to you, Shakanulu. I appreciate the membership. Shakanulu also says, I don't believe in curses. Either you blind, deaf, and dumb, or you not. Absolutely agreed. But, you know, there are some happenings that are almost to biblical proportions, you know, catastrophic. So I'm going to go deeper into that, but I appreciate the support, Jesse and Shakanulu. Good to have you in the building. Good to have everyone in the building. I'm gonna, you know, as a classical Nigerian, I'm going to greet everyone in a minute. I just want to set off why I'm talking about this, okay? I actually wanted to talk about, or use this last stream to talk about something quite recent and relevant. And this might actually be part of the issue that I have with Black British content creators in general. Okay. It's not so much a direct issue, but it's just a concern. I don't know if it's just, I don't know, laziness or just being uncompetitive, but there is a real news article that someone should have covered, but I've seen no one cover. Okay. And that is one about a woman called Eleanor Williams, who has been now jailed for 8.5 years after a false grape allegation. Right, that's a very big topic that I've seen no one, no Black British content creator cover. Right, guys have been placed in prison. Some guys have been given death threats. Some guys have been suicidal. You know, this 23-year-old, 22, 23-year-old, false allegations. Now she's jailed for 8 years. You know, that is something that I think is very it's very in line with a lot of the stuff that I cover, that we cover in general, that we are interested in, right? But it's a shame to see that no one has covered it. Oh well, but yeah, I wanted to go into that as I thought it would be much more, hitting. But hey, it is what it is. But as I said, this is the last call in, and I've already mentioned some reasons in the previous stream. But I think in this stream, I'm gonna talk about another reason, which I probably didn't go deeper into. Okay, and that is really a lot of ninjas in this space are, in my humble opinion, sick in the head. I will go into detail again about these individual archetypes that I've witnessed online, and it pertains to the reason why, in my opinion, Black British men have failed in creating this so-called community. Okay? You know? And hey, if the shoe fits, this is going to be one of those streams. If the shoe fits, it fits. I'm not going to name names. I'm going to present archetypes of a big part of why I just need to, lock off the proximity to some individuals, right? But with that being said, man, check out the Discord, Self Refinement City. Links are in the description below. It will also be in the first message pinned to the chat after this stream. So check that out. That's where, I came up with certain decisions. We will speak about other stuff there, so check it out if you want behind the scenes type of intel and information. But man, let me see who's in the building, man. Intro probably went on for so long, but hey, salute to everyone who made it. First one in the building was Diego Harry. So salute to you in the building. Jessica X in the building. Salute to you. I believe she's streaming. Salute. We got Dej in the building. Salute to you, bro. We got online account. Salute to you. Leo Mills in the building. Salute to you. We got Kings and Queens, another content creator. Salute to you, bro. Good to have you. Jesse, as always, with the super chat. We got KB Jones, another content creator. Salute to you, bro. We got I mentioned Kings and Queens again. Shakanulu, of course. Mod, member squad. Who else do we have in this building, man? We got Captain Toast in the building. He said he saw that article about that woman, false allegations, serious stuff. We got AO in the building. Salute. Okay, we got the usual suspects, and we also got another super sticker by Dej with a £2 support, man. I really appreciate the support. I really, truly do. And salute to you and all of your input in the self-refinement live stream as well. Always showing love and support. So appreciate that. But, okay. I just need to clear my throat. So let me just give a brief kind of rundown as to why at some point last year I wanted to focus a bit more on Black British issues, because I just felt, like I mentioned earlier, it's an underserved community with underserved intel, right? I found myself in a lot of Black American spaces or live streams or information, opinions, and I was out of space, or I was out of place rather, because it was like, okay, we can relate on some things, but hey, at the end of the day, I'm not from America, so it's not really my place to even talk about what's happening in America, right? So I took it upon me to focus a bit more close to home, especially pertaining to Black British men, right? So I moved away from the general self-improvement stuff, the stuff that is my bread and butter, that I'm passionate about, right? The spiritual, the mental, the physical self-improvement. Moved away from that, tried to do it both in tandem to focus on Black British people, okay? But something that I've realized is that, and look, I'm just going to be frank. And again, check out the Self-Refinement City, because that's where I'm the frankest. But in this stream, as it's the last one, I'm allowed to be frank. So I'm just going to be frank in how I see it. Okay. what I've noticed is that, and I even hate to say it, but I just have to say it, the traditional self-improvement information that will actually help men, black men in this case, it's useless. That's what I've realized. It's useless. I mean, it's useless for people who might have no direction in their life or where they live, their future. You know, you ask a British brother, what's your 10-year plan? And it's the response is going to be, what 10-year plan? It's pointless talking about all this activity to, you know, ramp up your your expression of masculinity and stuff like that, because I think when you don't have the greater picture in your mind, when you don't even know if you're going to remain in this country, what's the point of cultivating and developing a lifestyle that might not even be congruent with the environment, since you don't know if you're going to be somewhere else 10 years down the line, right? So I just get the feeling, and it's a feeling, that black people in particularly black men don't align, are not even receptive to self-improvement like that, right? You know, shout out to creators like, I don't know if you guys know First Man. Press a 1 if you know about First Man. First Man, you know, solid male self-improvement channel. Right? He's someone that I kind of look upon and see, yeah, that's a solid vision of what I would like to talk about in my community. But, you know, it's quite, I found that it's quite pointless. And the key reason why I find it to be pointless is there are certain archetypes of black British people that exist online. And I've identified 5 of them who I have bumped into over my, you know, during my time live streaming and being a little bit closer with all this community stuff. Okay. So I think what I've realized is that we black Brits, or maybe even black people in general, just need a different style of approach to self-improvement. And unfortunately, it seems that that type of self-improvement is more in alignment with, I don't know, being roasted, being judged, you know, being slapped a couple of times metaphorically. It's like there's something there that is just a mental block that is just doesn't allow certain people to activate mentally. You know, particularly, I guess, with our tendency to simp and, you know, give in to carnal desires a little bit more. So a man like me talking about meditation and delay gratification and fasting, it can't align with people who want to smash whenever they can, you know, want to eat quote unquote soul food. Why would they care? You know? So that's why in the beginning, man, before I go through the 5 archetypes, I wanted to read about the curse. And let's revisit that curse of Ham, because again, this is something that a lot of people cite as, you know, a reason why things are so up in the community. The curse of Ham. You know, some people also mention other kind of Satanist, you know, great powers that might be influencing certain issues in our community. Okay, so let's go back and revisit this curse of Ham. Let's see if it's true or not. Okay, are we actually cursed? Let's see. And again, you know, forgive me, I'm just using the basic Wikipedia, because actually I find that a lot of articles on the curse of Ham are actually by black preachers. And so there seems to be a lot of emotional statements. No, we're not cursed. No. Nah, I want a straight and narrow viewpoint. Okay, so the curse of Ham, we understand, is actually the curse of Canaan. And this is the biblical narrative, okay? And Noah began to be an husbandman, and he planted a vineyard, and he drank of the wine, and was drunken, and he was uncovered within his tent. And Ham, the father of Canaan, saw the nakedness of his father, and told his two brethren without. And Shem and Japheth took a garment and laid it upon both their shoulders, and went backward and covered the nakedness of their father, and their faces were backward, and they saw not their father's nakedness. Okay, verse 24. And Noah awoke from his wine, and knew that his youngest son had done unto him. He said, Cursed be Canaan, a servant of servants shall he be unto his brethren. And he said, Blessed be the Lord of Shem, and Canaan shall be his servant. God shall enlarge in Japheth, and he shall dwell in the tents of Shem, and Canaan shall be his servant. Genesis chapter 9, verses 20 to 27, King James Version. Get your Bible out and read the curse. Okay, so let's skip all that. Let's just go into it a little bit more. Okay, in the past, so we're talking about racism and slavery. In the past, some people claim that the curse of Ham was a biblical justification for imposing slavery and racial discrimination towards black people. Although this concept has been criticized for being an ideologically driven misconception regarding this matter, the Christian leader Martin Luther King Jr. called such an attempt a blasphemy that, quote unquote, is against everything that the Christian religion stands for. Okay, I'm not going to go too deep into this, but I'm just going to go to the result of what I think, and then we're going to chime in. Okay. For Southern slave owners who were faced with the abolitionists' movement to end slavery, the curse of Ham was one of the many grounds upon which Christian planters could formulate an ideological defense of slavery. Even before slavery, in order to promote economic motivations within Europe associated with colonialism, the curse of Ham was used to shift the common Aristotelian belief that phenotypic differentiation among humans was a result of climatic difference. To a racialist perspective, the phenotypic differentiation among the species was due to there being different racial types. This often came as a result of European anxieties to avoid being sent to the colonies, as they were terrified of the high casualty rate of settlers due to disease and warfare. Thus, many of them formulated the idea that being sent south of the equator blackened them, quote unquote, and thus made them inferior. Okay, that's the curse of Ham. Someone get out a Quran, man. We need some healing. Okay, so press a 1 in the chat if you believe that black people are cursed. Black British people in particularly are accursed people. You know, we seem to have problems and troubles, quote unquote, uniting, being a community, right? Everything's in disarray, disharmony. Press a 1 if you think there's a curse. And let me change something. Let me change the track to something upbeat, man. I know some of you are getting shook. Some of you are getting shook. Whoa, okay, we got a 1. Mr. B's believes we are cursed. KB Jones believes that we are not. Leo Mills believes that we are not. Super Sharian. You people, he believes, are cursed. Jesse believes we are not cursed. Okay, where are we? There is just one little segment that I noticed that I wanted to read. Okay, so this part clarifies that this is actually a curse of Canaan. Okay, so it's not actually a curse of Ham, right? And it goes back to the verse, and he said, "Cursed be Canaan, a servant of servants shall he be unto his brethren." Yeah. So it's saying, the article saying, it is noteworthy that the curse was made by Noah, not by God. Okay. Some biblical scholars claim that when a curse is made by a man, it could only have been effective if God supports it. Unlike the curse of Ham and his descendants, which is not confirmed by God. Or at least it is not mentioned in the Bible that he had confirmed it. So in one little, when we use our noggin, when we actually read what is going on in these, books that a lot of people like to revere, no disrespect, we can actually see that, hey, we are not actually a cursed people. Right? We're not actually a cursed people. Not cursed. Freedman's Journal was like, I'm killing it in life, so I'm a 2. So okay, most of us agree that we're not cursed. Some of us agree we are cursed. Okay, and personally speaking, I can assure you that my life is flowing well. And I know sometimes this rubs people the wrong way, because people think all black people are suffering, struggling, dealing with issues. But my life is going well according to some plans. And I like to think that that progression is in part due to my capabilities, right? Some of them are going to be innate, but most of them are learned. Being able to adapt to my environment, right? Social skills. Just like how I can communicate with you guys is the same way I can communicate with people in my environment to make things happen, right? That's how we can make business and make effective contracts and flow in life, right? But I'm not trying to, people say, oh, you're arrogant, you're blah, 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 blah. I've noticed as well, when man is smiling and happy, it seems like a lot of black people are irate by that. Like, what are you smiling about? You should be depressed just like me. It's the people. It's the people, not a curse. Okay? So in this part, just before I open up the lines, if anyone wants to speak about anything, if anyone wants to say their part, okay, I'm gonna go through the five archetypical Negroes of this realm on YouTube and probably beyond, to be honest. Probably it's just a microcosm of what is happening in the world, in this country. Okay? These are the 5 archetypical Negroes that I've discovered online, and that is part of a reason why I need to create space and to not want to be in such close proximity with some of these people, okay? I won't lay before you too long, and I'll run the link in a sec, okay? Let me quickly shout out the brother, Michael Meachuk the 4th, okay, with the consistent 99 super stickers, 99 cent. I really appreciate you, bro. Good to have you in the building. We got our white American brother over here, just comes in and shows support to a black British stream about black British men, right? He's already done more than most in all of these streams. And this is not me. I'm not trying to, some people say, oh yeah, you're begging. I'm not, If I wanted super chats, man, I'll be going harder on the live streams if that was what my life required. But it's just about a show of a simple show of solidarity, right? I'm typically if I catch someone's live stream, I'm typically super chatting someone who I want to support every day, and I don't even in some cases I don't even flow with their message or their talking points, but I'll still super chat. Oh yeah, that's a black British guy. He's trying to get traction. Let me super chat him. Why not? What's £5? What's £1? What's 99 cents? Just to show a sign of support. Right? But when I mention that, people will say that, hey, I must be begging, or there must be something weird. There's something weird with that idea. Right? And this is where I bring up this question: why black British men fail as a community? Do we fail as a community? And I think these type of mentalities are part of that. But I'm going to go through the 5 archetypical Negroes that I've discovered online, okay? And listen, I'm not trying to offend anyone personally. That's why I keep it vague. But if the shoe fits and you feel some way, I urge you to come on the panel if you feel like I'm, if the shoe fits. That's a good thing about me and the live streams, man. I got thick skin and I can, conversate with you. Okay? Someone said they like it when I'm in this mood. Gee, I don't know. I don't know, man. I tend to lose a lot of people. The sad thing about me is that I have to keep it honest and truthful, man. That is actually what one of my names mean. A faithful person, honest person. So I'm true to that. Okay. The first archetypical ninja in this black British space. And this is the bipolar spectrum Negro. Okay, I'm going to have to use the classic term because that's the only way it's going to hit properly, yeah? The bipolar spectrum Negro. I really should have banners saying this, but it's just too long now, man. Most of you listening in your headphones anyway, so that's cool. So this individual is the most shady. This individual tends to be double-crossing, two-faced, over here. Yeah. I love your work, Falcon. But in a hot minute on the other stream, they'll be dissing me. They'll be cussing me. They'll be roasting me. Typically for nothing. Or it could be just one opinion that someone didn't like, and that will cause that will just like F up a friendship or potential relationship or some business affair or something like that. And the reason why I call this type of bipolar spectrum type of person is because bipolar was commonly known as what was it called? Manic depression. So that basically means 1 minute this could be a person who's happy and happy-go-lucky and positive, and then the next minute is low, depressed, like negative, all these bad thoughts in the brain. And this is the same thing for this individual. I love your content, but maybe one opinion that they don't agree with, oh, you are a disgrace. I hate you. And usually what I find with the bipolar spectrum ninja is that it's usually centered around women as well. So often I'll be called a disgrace for having independent thought processes, critical thinking, not thinking as the herd, not engaging in group think, right? And that really tickles people's emotions, and I also find there to be a lot of obsessiveness, so like even at the point where they do dislike me, or they have all these strange, comments to say about me, they still love the content. They still love to come here. They still love the shit. will still drop consistent emails about this, that, or the other. So really, what the alternative name for the bipolar spectrum Negro is also the bisexual Negro. These types are usually in love with me. Let's just call it what it is. It's the bisexual Negro. They say love and hate is a thin line. And this is one of them. This weird, obsessive, oh, I hate you. Oh, God, I love you. Oh, God, I love you. That weirdo type stuff. That is the bipolar spectrum Negro. Just generally shady. And again, speaking about community, how can you, who's building anything with this type of individual? This unstable, who? So Diego, schizo. For real, man. For real. Look, this is gonna be those streams, man. Look, it has to be a nice joke stream. Yeah, love and hate are the same thing. Yeah, love, hate, same emotion. And look, I'm saying this all in jest. Yeah, don't think I'm taking anything to heart. It's just my observations over the months. And I needed to air this out so you can also understand the things that a lot of guys deal with behind the scenes. A lot of you might not see this or recognize this. So that is the bipolar spectrum Negro. One of the 5 pillars as to why Black British men fail in creating communities. Okay. Next up is the Afrosphere dusty Negro. So we had the bipolar spectrum Negro. Now we have the Afrosphere dusty Negro. Okay. So typically have similar traits as the above, but is just really more reckless. Okay. This is the type of person, content creator or audience member, they, would do anything for views and giggles, usually like to operate as a troll, right? Nothing is serious to them. They don't care, which, it's YouTube, I understand. But the most important part is that they are unproductive. And as a content creator, usually have no vision for growth, right? So with that, we understand the mentality of a person that exists in this realm. I don't know, 5, 6, 7, 10-hour live streams, expecting no return, right? So we already know that this type of person is, in the low life kind of arena, right? And sometimes you find some of these people who claim to be, I don't know, the special high IQ Negro amongst the atmosphere, dusty Negro, but in some cases I can see that with some of the way they speak and articulate their thoughts. But then it's usually that so-called high IQ is usually marred with, I think, dyslexia, or maybe even a certain variant of autism or something funky. So what tends to happen for this person who likes to big up their intelligence is that it never really ever works for them, because all these other kind of disabilities just it traps them in a whirlwind of dustiness, right? That's the unfortunate with a lot of the unfortunate thing with a lot of intelligent people. They have all the thoughts, they have all the speech, articulation, but they usually have an Achilles heel that holds them back significantly. So it's like there's no point bigging up your high IQ when you're also stupid. Food for thought. So good examples of this was I think it was earlier this year or maybe late last year when I did a stream, and you got some of these Afrosphere dusties jumping on panels, pretending to be other people. Right? And it's like, again, unproductive. We are grown adults trying to speak about grown man things, right? But you've got these individuals with a brain that will tell them to, hey, let's pretend, let's masquerade as someone else and jump on another person's stream and just pretend for time, right? So people are on streams usually for time, hours, just talking nonsense. You know? That is the Afrosphere dusty Negro. You know, trolling. And the thing about trolls, let me tell you this about trolls, generally speaking. You know, that sarcastic, trolly behavior is just really a person who's not really confident in themselves, right? So you find people that just want to be a joker, like to clown, that don't want to be taken seriously because they're not confident in their approach to things, or in maybe their you know, their course of action, their points of view. So you find people who like to be sarcastic and pretend all the time and clown around and joke, right? That's the Afrosphere. I can't even say it properly, man, because it's so dusty, but that's the Afrosphere dusty Negro, okay? The second pillar out of the 5 archetypes, okay? The third archetype. Let me see what you're saying in the chat though. Are you with me? Are you with me? I won't lay before you too long. I'm gonna put the chat down, you know, the last live stream call-in show. You know, but salute to everyone in the building. Let me just come up a little bit. Yeah, get the likes up, please, if you're enjoying it. Like the stream. I understand there's other people doing lives, but you're here with me, so I appreciate your time. And I won't take liberties. Okay. So the third pillar has to be the pro-black Negro. The pro-black Negro. The third reason why Black Britishmen fell as a community, okay? So the first thing to identify in the typical pro-black ninja is the high rate of emotionality, okay? The high rate of emotionality. So usually they come with you with sub stories, you know, very emotional, highly argumentative, and kind of having a similar traits as the bipolar spectrum Negro, right? Meaning that they will mess with you until you stop the group think. But this group think is usually only in relation to women, particularly black women, right? So a lot of sub stories over black women. So therefore, if, for example, we engage in critical thinking and we perhaps say that, hey, there is not, you know, not every black man is going to be inclined to wed or date, especially black men in Britain, to wed or date black women, right? For many reasons that we cited in many live streams, right? But this person, the pro-black ninja, will not take any of that into consideration. And, you know, because he operates as the attack dog, this emotional vessel for some women's rage, you know, he ends up destroying potential relationships, destroying potential friendships over very small, minute issues such as, I don't know, dating choices, right? But, you know, instances, what example can I bring? What example? So, like, again, it's similar to the bipolar behavior. You know, I F with you, man. I love your content, man. You speak the real. You're the only one speaking about all these stuff. Everyone else is speaking about modern women and who hit the wall. But you Falcon, you're the realist. You I feel you. You know, you're from the ends as well, so I really understand. But then you just talk about, hey, you know, some men, some black men, some black British men, like our man, what's his name? I already forget these people's name, man. What's his name? The former chancellor. You know, some black British men are gonna go with non-black women for various reasons. One of that could be, you know, the demographics, the availability, right? But it'll be issues like that the pro-black ninja will completely denounce and sell you for Kwasi Kwarteng, yeah. You know, so a lot of people are are ending fellowship with other black men because of who you date or who you want to date or who you envision dating or who you might just have to date because that's just what it is. Okay? But what happens with the pro-black ninja is that, you know, the pro-black in the UK, we've had many streams about how you become pro-black in the UK, how to live that lifestyle, right? But the pro-black like this, the pro-black ninja usually realizes that he's an island, right? He has assailed so many other black men for minute differences in opinion or different lifestyles. He fails to recognize, you know, especially with the pro-black ideology, that, hey, that's another black person, that's another black man. Maybe we have more in common than, I don't know, dating behaviors, right? But no, he has diminished and he has cut those potential bonds and relationships. So now he's an island, right? He has nothing but, you know, in a lot of cases, nothing but women who use him for emotional support, you know, as an emotional tampon. Maybe he has to apply some baby daddy duties, right? So, you know, again, similar to the bipolar, he's, you know, he understands that, hey, man, where's my brothers? Oh, yeah, pro-black. But no, his emotional ways, you know, has burnt a lot of bridges. So there he finds himself as an island. And again, I've had to kind of just, and I don't like blocking, guys, to be honest. I don't like blocking. I don't like deleting stuff. But these are usually the bombastic, crazy people with all these crazy talking points that are kind of raunchy, especially when it's with regards to interracial stuff. You know, just oh, the black man, you know, all this, like, nah, no one wants to hear that nonsense. You know? So that's the pro-black ninja, the third pillar of the 5 archetypes. Let me shout out and salute Ifechi Michael in the building, man. Always coming through with the support, man. I really appreciate that. You know, I bigged him up in the Self-Refinement City because now I'm not gonna share any information about him, but he just supports a lot. Okay. I want to keep my people's privacy, but he supports a lot, and I really appreciate that. So salute to Ifechi Michael in the building with the £1 super chat, and salute to everyone else showing support, liking the video, commenting your thoughts. If you're coming on, prepare to come on. And just before I hit the next part, my man Michael Meetalk the 4th came in again with that traditional 99-cent super sticker, man. Appreciate you too, bro, as well. Consistent support. Okay. And Diego Harry says it. Yeah, a number in these spaces have irreparably burnt bridges for sure. Absolutely. And it's a shame, to be honest with you. You know, it's a shame. Because maybe I'm naive. You know, maybe I'm naive, but I actually take this stuff seriously. Because at the end of the day, we've gone for a long spans of time communicating with each other. You know, it could be over the pandemic when we literally can't see nobody. We're communicating. This is a bond to some degree. But people were just so willing to just throw it out, dash it out just like that, over opinions and thought processes, right? And when that happens online, it makes me realize why these people might be, might have to be quote unquote lone wolves and lonely, because they, in real life, they can't really deal with people in a normal way, right? It's either you fully align with me, you agree with me, or you're my enemy because you think differently. This is a key reason why Black British men fail as a community. And Freedman's Journal in the building with the we got the Americans in the house with the $5 super chat, man. I really appreciate that, bro. Good to have you in the building. Freedman's Journal. He says support for a black man winning. Hey, I appreciate you. I know you're winning too. Load of our American brothers come through, show support. And I appreciate that. Appreciate that. We showcase the forward thinking mentality. We don't do this tribalism stuff. Oh, you're a black Brit. Oh, yeah, you ain't ish. So salute to Freedman's Journal. Man, good to have you in the house. Yeah, Yanks in the house. But again, just 2 more points. I won't lay before you too long. And if you want to hop on, actually, I'll put the link in the chat right now. Yeah, shout out to the Americans. In case you want to prepare and you got things to get off your chest, this is the stream for it. I had to come out of my call-in show retirement because I just had to wrap a bow into the whole, I can't just leave it just like that. I have to conclude, give a summary, So the link's in the chat if anyone is preparing to talk about any of the points that I'm raising here. Okay. So let's go to number 4, the 4th archetype. The 4th archetype that makes it impossible for Black British men to quote unquote build is the low IQ Negro. Okay. Low IQ Negro. And I think this guy is probably the least destructive, I think for a lot of, what ails this type of person in many cases is inexperience, right? Very inexperienced or quiet inexperience. And that also, or maybe it's the intelligence part, makes him quiet, highly impressionable, right? So I find this type of person lives through a lot of other people's experiences. That can be a dangerous thing because, you don't know who people are, right? I know there's a lot of attractive, right? A lot of attractive talking points in the spaces online, right? And you just want to align with it. But at the end of the day, for example, if you got a man online telling you that, oh, all women are crazy, I got dragged to the cleaners, she did this and that, you've got to also try to understand or want to understand, okay, what did you do wrong, man? What was your problem, man? I need to understand both stories, right? Oh, you got married at like age 22 and you gave this person 2 kids when you were working as a janitor, and you didn't expect the worst. So the low IQ ninja, very impressionable, lives through other people, other content creators. I find that a lot of people who call themselves incels might fall under this bracket, right? And there's nothing wrong with that per se. But I find that a lot of these people, the low IQ, usually have these very binary thought processes. And what I mean by that is that they usually, you might hear these guys champion Becky, for example, champion the Pogs, right? Or, some have been crazy enough to think that, oh, Japanese women, just this very narrow-minded view of the world and of people. And for me, that just signifies just low intelligence, which is linked to low experience, right? So in reality, we've had people coming on the streams lying about their habits. It could be, I don't know, waiting for marriage to have sex, but only saying that as a lie to prove these weak points, right? And those points are usually about so-called modern women and why he has an aversion for all these other foreign women, right? For me, that's inexperience, almost incel type of thought processes, you know? And all these points, all these talking points to why all the women in this person's environment are just no good. But the key thing with the low IQ ninja is that they never have the ability to self-reflect, it seems, right? If you're having problems with all the women or most of the women in your environment, then when is it time to ask the question, hey, what's wrong with me? Could there be something wrong with me? You know, we had this Michael B. Jordan situation some weeks ago about some old reporter saying, oh, he was corny as a kid. But hey, you know, and I know this might sting some of the sensitive people that's listening, but hey, what if you are corny? What if you were corny? What if you were nerdy? What if you were just simply not attractive to most women in your environment? Have you ever, you know, these types of people will never ask these questions, but instead will find a crutch. You know, it might be a passport, it might be an aeroplane, it might be some country in Asia, you know. But that's just for me low intelligence. You know, not critically aligned thinking process, right? It's just hiding issues that might be pertaining to the person and just living a lie every day, looking in the mirror. You know, you got man boobs, right? And if you squeeze those man boobs, honey bun syrup comes out of them. Have you ever considered fixing those hand boobs and the extra weight that you might have before you complain about people not finding you attractive, for example? You know? And I think for the low IQ ninja, no experience is not really the issue. For me, it's the lack of integrity. You know? It's the web of lies to create a talking point. It's the pretending to be this or that. Hey, I'm this, so I deserve this. I'm entitled to this and that. That integrity part is what kills the brotherhood and friendship. You know, because a lot of people get caught out. You've been lying. Who wants anything to do with you? Why do I want liars on my live stream talking nonsense? You know what I mean? And some of you, look, I'm not gonna even reopen these conversations. Some of you in the chat saying, "Oh, Michael B was right." Okay, cool. That's your opinion. I respect your opinion. But in my opinion, anyone who's balanced should also have the viewpoint of, hey, what about me as well? What could I improve? That's what self-improvement is. What can I fix? Yes, I know you hate it, but originally it was the job of women to be able to suss out who were good men to procreate with. Right? But some people want to assume that women just have no role to play in this. You know, if you have narrow views and you think, oh, Tyrone and Chad, then hey, I don't know what to tell you. You have to be a Tyrone and Chad if that's what you believe. But the webs of lies and the pretending and oh, women this, women that, nah. That is the low IQ Negro. And again, all of that is not really the problem. I can work with someone who has their viewpoint on women and all of this. That's cool. We all have different experiences. We all have different genetics. Right? We all present the world differently. But for me, it's the integrity part. If you have to lie, if you look yourself in the mirror, you see flaws, but you want to overlook it, you want to blame other people, nah. There's no integrity. You know, there is. I don't see a man, to be honest, when I see that. You know what I mean? But that's the fourth strain. Archetype, the low IQ Negro. Okay. Salute to everyone in the building. Okay, some people actually find it funny. And yeah, this is a light-hearted, funny thing, man. I'm not trying to hurt feelings, but I just have to say what I've seen. Okay. But this is the last point, and then I'm gonna open the stream. I've got a few people in the back. The link is in the chat. Later on, I'm gonna post it. pin it to the top with the chat. So feel free to jump on if you want to jump on. Everyone in the back, I appreciate the camera on, but you can turn it off. It's good. We can round this off with a no camera. I appreciate the camera, but we can just go with the avatar. Streamline the whole thing. Okay. The last final pillar, the last archetype of the ninja that I've come in contact with is the lone wolf, quote unquote, I don't need a community Negro. Okay. And again, it's like the low IQ, it's not really as problematic as the earlier ones, the destructive ones, but I think this mentality obviously is not conducive to any type of community, right? If you want to operate as a lone wolf, if you want to be by yourself, amongst yourself, then obviously there it's very hard to form a community with someone like that, right? And I think whenever I've mentioned the weaknesses of being a lone wolf, the weaknesses of walking the road alone, metaphorically speaking, the weakness of being an individual Black British person in the UK with our small demographic, people of this ilk want to denounce that, right? We talk about the very well documented health issues that come with loneliness, especially as you get older. The increased risk of Alzheimer's, for example, lowered immune system, believe it or not. Right? People are quick to denounce it, you know what I mean? And I find that to be, it's like, usually a lot of people that fall under the spectrum, usually, got all the kind of solutions to build a perfect community, right? But in reality, it's like those solutions, this person doesn't apply them to themselves and to their own conduct with other people. So it's like, what's the point? What's the point of all these discussions of community and economy and strengthening the demographic and all of this, when at the end of it, you don't even believe in a community. You don't even want a community. There are like 99 reasons why to not feel like you're in a community, and you want to go with that. You don't want any common ground. And that is fine, because obviously everyone can make their own choice. This is a very quiet, sensitive issue. I understand that. But the thing is that, there are certain benefits of being in a community, having a group. And by community, I don't even mean like a nation. I'm not talking like a Black British nation. I'm just even thinking about a close community in terms of a few bands of people, right? If you don't believe in that strategy or formation, then one, there's no point talking about all this community stuff. But then two, this person cannot also reap the benefits of being in the community. And what I mean by that is that, for example, you can't ask for favors, right? You should not be comfortable asking for favors if you want to operate by yourself, right? If you never want to contribute, but you seek favors, like I would be embarrassed if I was that type of person, to be honest. And I find that a lot of people are with this mindset where it's like, yeah, help me, give me a favor. Oh, I really appreciate that. Yeah, give me a foot up. But there is no energy into the thinking of giving back to the community, giving back to the group that you are so easily able to garner favor from. I think that is a big problem, because forget the community aspect. It's just that on a one-to-one aspect. It's like, why even work with a person like that, with a person who doesn't know how to give and receive, So I just find that, if a pro lone wolf guy talking about community stuff doesn't make sense, and it ends up being a waste of time, right? And the thing about quote unquote community, a collective, is that we should not be surprised when other groups of people, other entities just see no respect in us, because hey, that's how we roll, right? We mention all these famous groups, these live streams, British Asians doing this and that, economy, this and that. You might talk about Jewish people, you might talk about Chinese people. And of course, yes, I understand different origins, different situations, but there is still the strength in those numbers that I just can't see when people want to operate as loners, right? And the thing that I see is that a lot of loners, a lot of people that want to be in this normal lifestyle, they look down, particularly on other black people, as if to suggest that their way of life is the way forward. But realize that, hey, we're all in this shithole together, right? So perhaps it's not really working. You can't really do things like pull funds together to raise certain issues, to raise certain things. It's just this harmony, just this singular way of thinking that is obviously not conducive with any type of partnership, right? Any type of group, like any trust. There's no trust. That's the key thing. No trust. And that is something that plagues black people a lot, black men a lot. Again, we talk about walking down the street, no trust. And I get it. If you've had bad experiences in the past, but when is it time to kind of do some soul searching and to just try to improve those situations, or to look elsewhere into other people rather than to write it all off, or no community, I don't identify, I'm just on my own. I see weakness with that mentality. And I think, again, not as destructive as the earlier points, but I think that archetype, that operates on distrust, it's almost an air of arrogance sometimes. It's like you can't do anything with them. I'm not inclined to help people who, for example, never contributed to me. Why? I'm not going to spend hours of my time, skill sets to. Why? These are the basic hallmarks of partnerships, working together, give and get. But hey, look, I've ranted enough, man. I hope everyone's still there. You still awake? Everyone all right? Let's do some star jumps or something. This was the 5 ninjas that have probably made the task of having this kind of Black British community a failure. Okay? The bipolar spectrum Negro, the shadiest one, the Afrosphere dusty Negro, the reckless one, the pro-black Negro, the highly emotional one, the low IQ Negro, the inexperienced, very impressionable one, the lone wolf, I guess the arrogant one, right? The probably the selfish one, the self-centered one. Okay, but are there any more that I've missed? What else? What type of archetypes? What ninjas do you see in the space that makes it hard to really do things? Like, feel free to write in the chat. Okay, let us know what you think. But with that said, we've got a few people in the back, so I'm going to bring them on bit by bit. Let me just fix a few things. Let's see what we've got. Let's see. One second, guys. Talk amongst yourself. Let me just get my headset. let's configure this. We got the AirPods coming through. Okay, we got the mic coming through. All good, looking here. Okay. Let's see what else we got. Yeah, that's Flossie Carter. Shout out to Flossie Carter, man. Talk amongst yourself, man. Flossie Carter, man. Okay, we got things set. We got the banner rolling. We got people in the back. Let me just kill this presentation screen. Once again, let me just appreciate everyone who's shown some love over, not just this stream, but all the other streams and all the support. You need to know, man, that anything that you super chat, for example, it goes back into the equipment that I have to create content. Trust me. Trust me, all the mics, the cameras, the wireless mics, the editing software, I'm thinking about this and I'm thinking about, a stronger message all the time. And that's part of my reason for going back, to move away from call-in shows, create stronger content that aligns with you, the audience. You know what I mean? So don't think I'm one of these, I'm not going to pump and dump you. I'm not going to pause. But yeah, I'm not going to pump and dump you. I'm not going to run away. I'm not here to accrue, some amount of super chat, go away and then come back and do some nonsense like, nah. I'm here for the long haul, okay? But okay, who did we have first? I think first in was Jesse in the building. Then we got Shah in the building. Then we got Diego If in the building. Please unmute for a sec, Shah 25. The link's in the chat. Let me quickly do that. I'm going to aim to paste it because it's in another window. I'm going to paste it to the chat as well. And I'm also going to put in the description. But yeah, if you want to come up, the last call-in show, if I don't know you, okay, you're going to have to, in the back, in the private, you're going to have to put on your camera for a second. Because this is one thing I'm not going to deal with again. Like you crazy... usually the Afrosphere junkies that want to play games and operate like fools. Okay, we're not going to do that today or ever. Okay, so if you're new, you're going to have to turn on your camera up in the back. But everyone else are on the panel are OGs, so they need no introduction. But okay, first up, let's go to Jesse, man. How you doing this evening?
Well, I would say this evening a lot more better, but the past week has been pretty rough.
Yeah, damn.
Yeah. I would say the past couple of weeks. I just recently found out I have ADHD, but I'm awaiting diagnosis, and it's basically, let's just say I'm improving because I've already, let's say, taken the right steps to basically resolve it, but there's a lot of realizations that I had to come over in my life, right? Because I'm like 31 now, and let's just say it's peak. But the thing is,
there is no medication for ADHD, is there? Or is it like diet changes or something?
But the thing is it's alleviated by, the funny thing is actually exercise, routine, and meditation. And I've been doing that anyway. So it has been a seamless transition, but there's still certain things I need to adjust. But besides that, it's hard to take because it affects some of my career prospects now. But
okay, understood.
That, but it's been pretty rough.
Hopefully, going forward, I mean, it's just me, Falcon, but hopefully some of my content can pertain to stuff like that, because that's what I find to be the serious, talking point. Oh, I appreciate that, man.
Let me explain what I mean by that.
Okay.
Because obviously I want other people to talk, is like the meditation. I do a different type of meditation. I call it ghetto meditation, where basically after the gym, I just go out, sit on a bench and just meditate, and then basically just head home, basically. But that's pretty much what I do on about 3 or 4 times a week after the gym.
Hmm.
But there's a lot of things I've listened. I've basically involved. But yeah,
Hmm.
let me talk about babbling. Let someone else talk now.
No, 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 no. This is what we're about, self-improvement. This is the real discussion. But hey, let me not throw you into the midst. Let me ask you
Yeah.
these questions in pertaining to whatever I've said on the stream. First of all, do you believe that we are afflicted with a generational curse? If so, why? And also, do you think that have Black British men failed in creating a community for maybe for any reason that I mentioned again, or if any of my reasons are false and something needs correcting. What are your thoughts?
Um, I would say we're not a cursed people. I say we're dysfunctional people. Like, I'm just gonna be honest. Um, I see a lot of. I'm not saying that. Yes, we have had our hardships and our shortcomings. Don't get twisted.
Mhm.
But I'm just being honest. Like, what I'm seeing in the year 2023 right now is very concerning. The reason why I say it's very concerning is because basically, even like I have a theory, but it's not even a theory. There's now data to back this up now. Is that a lot of people in the black community, even in the British black community, is riddled with ADHD. Um,
Mm.
a lot of misdiagnosis and so forth. The way I know this is I speak
Mm.
to doctors. I am, I since I now recognize that I have the ADHD brain pattern, which I am going to be getting a diagnosis soon, hopefully next week. Um, Basically, I can now recognize people because now I have the awareness since I've now adjusted everything to basically help with the ADHD, right? And to the question that is this, how did I test? Basically, because I have Asperger's syndrome, it's very strongly linked to ADHD. And
Mm.
basically, the symptoms, I went and checked out symptoms with the NHS and so forth, and basically they match. So, and I know because I've been diarying, I've been journaling, writing
Mhm.
notes, and so forth about
Mhm.
certain aspects of how my day is. And
Mhm.
no, not everyone doesn't have ADHD, bro. But
Okay.
um,
I know that
that's
the
not.
chat is saying yeah, let the chat. But I want to ask, I guess, the second question. You said we're not cursed, but we're dysfunctional. But do you think, generally speaking, I know this might be a vague question, but do you think Black British people have failed in creating a a functioning community? And what I mean by community, because I know that it can be there's different elevations to this, different depth. Just on a general like level of yeah, your parents are from the Caribbean. My parents are from West Africa, but hey, we have many things in common. I don't have a great deal of mistrust towards you. There's certain things that we can do together. Maybe with their kids. Yeah, you can sleep over at my house. You're kind of you're almost like family. We're close. Like, have we failed in doing these sort of things?
My issue is because here's the thing, right? I'll be honest with you, Falcon. I have very uncomfortable conversations with many people of different ethnicities, cultures, races, whatever, right? About
Mm.
this, right? As black people, right? And another thing I found out is a lot of black people are misidentifying who they actually are. I recently found out that I am black, but I'm actually mixed race, right? Because the thing is what has happened is there's not a lot of like, for example, your mother, for instance, like say a mother will basically say you're this identity when you actually take time to actually review the history of your family and you actually realize
Mhm.
that you're not actually fully black, you're actually like mixed, right?
Mhm.
So certain cases like this is it's a lot to deal with, right? So basically I've now found out that I'm Asian and part black, right? Black on my dad's side and basically mixed on my mum's side, right? Because of the grandfather, and it's a long list, right? Trinidad and
Mhm.
Grenada, right? So and then basically born here, right? So it's basically that's another mind f that we need to deal with. Now the issue
Mhm.
is the black community, not all, but in many cases are literally setting up the new generation to basically fail. right? I'm sorry, I have to say this is the truth. I'm not saying all parents do this, right? There's good parents, there's good bad parents out there. I'm not denying that. But majority of what I've seen as a youth worker, my experiences in life, working in black communities, other communities, living in a predominantly white area, so on and so forth.
Mm,
What I am seeing is I'm not seeing many fathers around. I'm not seeing many
mm,
inheritance that is passed over
mm,
for children. I'm not seeing children being set up for the long term future. What I'm seeing is the very children now have to provide for the families because they failed economically. Right? These are the type of issues that I am seeing, and it is very concerning. Um, Another thing that a lot of people won't say because I have access to other communities and talk the so-called uncomfortable conversations, right?
mm.
There's a lot of tension between the races right now as I speak, right? And what I mean by this is the thing is this is going to be kind of controversial to say, but it won't affect your channel. Is that I would say that white people, not all, I'll say middle class white people are being basically put at the back of the queue for basically other minorities. And now what this is causing is a conflict of interest, right? It's causing a problem, right?
In this
Now,
country.
yes, right.
Mm-hmm.
Where what we're seeing is the erosion of some British culture, and what I'm seeing is I will say that let's say there's a lot of angry people who are British, white British, who are basically feel as their culture's being attacked. Now,
Okay,
I
okay,
understand
okay, okay.
right,
Okay, bro, that is a big topic that we need to go deeper in the next round, okay? So please,
cool.
please keep that full. I've got the note here, so we're going to have to touch on that, yeah? But great opener from Jesse, as always. Salute to Jesse in the building. Next in, we had Shah25. Shah, how are you doing this evening?
Oh, I'm doing wonderful. I ate a lot today. I'm not gonna lie. I went for a run and then I quickly, just ate. But what I'm gonna say is
You
that
went for a run and then you quickly ate. You
yeah,
mean you ate afterwards?
yeah,
Okay. Hey, good to
it's
hear.
so cold where I live.
You're doing that physical self-improvement. Good to hear.
Yeah, yeah. It's so cold where I live. It's freezing. But yeah, to get to the point, a lot of reason why the black community in the UK fails is because a lot of them have high expectations of what they want, but they don't necessarily achieve that. They just, try to have a certain desire without actually putting in the effort in terms of actually working a job or something. And then on top
Okay. 1 second. Why do you think that is? What are the components that make that a reality in your opinion, from what you
well
see over there?
Well, from my experience going to high school and stuff, a lot of black kids, they always wanted to become an athlete or some sort of entertainer and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But then a lot of
Okay, can I
that's
stop you
so
for a second? Can I stop you? Sorry to cut you, bro. I don't mean to cut you, but since it's the last call-in show, I just need to clarify one thing, and I need you to be 100% honest with me, bro.
Mhm.
Are you when you get the demographic checks in Canada, do you tick black?
Yeah,
Are you a
sure.
black person?
Yeah, that's what I did
Do
in
do you,
my
do you, under, do you understand why I asked that?
yeah, because what Jessica X did, but Jessica X
No,
hardly
no, no,
even
no, no,
shows her
no, no,
face.
no, not what anyone says. It's just that you're visual, and sometimes I can hear noises in the background, and it's like another language, right? And you kind of appear. I'm not trying to be disrespectful. You appear Asian, so you
No,
understand that
no, I'm not Asian.
when in the last stream you say things like you people this, you people that, especially when you're speaking to
I was
those
talking to
Americans.
American. I was talking to African Americans. That's what I was referring to. I wasn't talking to like black folks in general. You see me
Okay,
doing the
okay.
live streams. Yeah, and when Jessica X said that comment, I just got irritated because she has a nerve to talk, but she never showed any visuals or her face or anything. She hides behind a profile picture. So how can I believe? Maybe she can be a transgender white man.
Okay. Let her be here to defend herself. But hey, I understand that point. I'm not gonna argue that. Okay,
Yeah.
but okay, from your opinion, because I don't remember what you said in the chat. Are black people afflicted with a generational curse?
Most, but not all, because
What do you mean by most?
I'm talking about the ones in America. Like the reason I'm gonna say is that a lot of people, they just have they worship a lot of these like celebrities and stuff, and they be doing stuff, and yeah, and I know they're laughing. They're like, this man never shows his face.
Don't worry about the chat. Don't let the chat get to you.
Yeah.
Like, this is the last calling show, so just getting to the nitty gritty of things. You know
Okay.
what I mean?
So yeah.
Okay. Let me ask you this: since you kind of agree with that, are you cursed in your opinion? Do you think the things that you have not been able to do in your life, maybe your goals, or maybe I don't know, career paths, are you cursed? Does this curse afflict you?
No, not in a way. I'm not gonna blame, my skin color just for the errors of my failures and stuff. Just because other people face it. I think it all has to do with social media and SJW and all the social justice warriors that you see, that be doing that spewing all this, stupid rhetoric, and stuff that and it has to do with mainstream, like gossip, love and hip hop from Atlanta, and other things, and rappers trying to sell a fake lifestyle, and which isn't good. And people, and let me just say this: all money ain't good money. Anyone can be rich, but then they can go broke real quick, and that happens to a lot of black celebrities.
Bro, it sounds like you're rich. Are you hating on rich people?
No, I'm not hating on rich people. I'm saying a lot of.
What's wrong with having money? What's wrong with having money?
There's nothing wrong with having money, but a lot of celebrities in the black community, a lot of them, they just go broke once they have it all. You hear so many cases of NBA basketball players. There's this one basketball player by the name of Vincent Baker. He lost $100 million, and then he had to live with his family because he made poor decisions and choices in spending stuff, and that just shows you how much people they fail, and and a lot of out of wedlock births, a lot of out of wedlock births, meaning that they give birth before they even get married, which is very uncommon in other communities.
Okay, great point. Yeah. Great point. Okay, I'm gonna leave it there for the opener, but good points. I mean, yeah, you've spoken some cultural stuff, so appreciate that. SHA-25, we will come back in the second round. I'm just gonna mute you because of the sound in the back. So salute to SHA-25 in the building. So yeah, again, like KB says, last calling show, and I promise that. This is not a joke. So if you got anything you want to air out, this is the show to do it. It could be a lit show, so it depends on anyone who has the backbone and the spine to speak the grease and say what they need to say. Okay, so if you're that way inclined, feel free to hit the link. It's all good over here. Okay, so again, going to the openers, last but not least in the house, anyone wants to call in, jump in now. Penultimate opener, Diego Ife, aka Diego Harry in the building. Salute to you. How you doing this evening?
Salute, brother. Yeah, I'm good, man. How you doing?
Good, man. Thanks. I can't complain. Just another Tuesday. I'm kind of lit for some reason, but I don't know why. I think it's the fact that I don't have to do these streams anymore, man. It's like a pressure, like a relief, setting all this stuff up, like trying. Nah, man.
Do you think you may do like occasional kind of like unexpected streams if it's like a very topical subject, or?
I think because I'm a climb, I'm just used to the streaming. I feel like I would, but I think nah. I think it would be something like, okay, if I do 10 or 20 normal videos, then it's a reward to do a live stream. That's kind of how I'm feeling for it.
Okay.
But maybe probably end of the month type of thing. Hopefully, perhaps, maybe a rundown of a few things. but I'm just fatigued with the calling format, to be honest with you. Amongst other things, like I've detailed in this stream.
I hear that, man. I hear that still.
Yeah, but salute. So I want to ask you first, like, do you believe that we are suffering or afflicted by a generational curse as Black people, quote unquote?
So I can answer the question effectively, are we talking about Black British people or en masse?
So
like,
as far as I'm aware of this curse, the curse of Ham, basically Ham was a son of Noah who represented all African people, so all Black people, all people from Egypt and downward, right? So he was like, obviously after the biblical flood, it will be Noah's sons that will repopulate the earth. So apparently, based off of what I've read earlier, Ham was, or his descendants were cursed, apparently. And so some religious people in Islam and Christianity have translated that as meaning that, that signifies all African people are thereby, the sort of dysfunction that we see today in modern African countries, for example, is in due to that curse. And other things, for example, like some people say having like coily hair, having afro hair is a part of the curse. So it's like pertaining to the entire geographical race of Africoid people.
So in that sense, I don't think there is a curse as such, but I will say that different clusters of so-called Black people have done a good job of, at least perhaps giving the idea that there is one. And again, and this is open to subjectivity, it's a matter of subjectivity, right? But I would say that if you want to infer that there's a curse, at best it's self-afflicted. If that makes sense, because one common denominator has been this parochial mindset, this zero-sum mindset. Like I've heard certain philosophers say that we live in a zero-sum world, which you can make the argument that, if we look at colonialism and stuff without going down a rabbit's hole, that had to be at the expense of other people. And the so-called colonizers did not believe they could coexist in a world where they weren't asserting themselves on another set of people. But when I speak in the Black context, right, is at times there's just a zero-sum game that makes no sense. And trying to hold so-called Black people to account often is a vain exercise, because, again, do they owe you any loyalty? Are they obligated to follow any creed? Do you understand what I'm trying to say? It's a complete rabbit's hole. I don't mean to, like, whenever I mention any of my writings, I don't mean to go on ad nauseum. It's just that sometimes of the discussions we have, it's so relevant. It's so, do you understand what I'm trying to say? And the easiest way of me ever conveying, like if I'm going to make any contributions on like the panel, is to maybe draw reference to it. But look, I mean, because of that, like I said, the fact that so-called Blackness is decentralized, it's not as organized as people like to make it out. You hear people say that, why can't we get together? But the idea of getting together implies that we were once together. You understand? The idea of referring to us as a fragmented collective, implies that we were always together. Do you know what I mean by that? AKA, we were part of one nation. You understand, there may have been certain differences, but by and large, once upon a time, we all conformed to a certain idea that we believed was indivisible to our survival. And that's never been the case. Never been the case. Whether you want to talk about it in the old world, in quote, Africa, or even in the new world, you can make the case that do you understand what I'm trying to say? So it's never been a thing. I think it's more of an ideal than it actually is like a reality. Do you see what I'm saying? So if you now apply that, for example, to the idea if the Black community, in quote, here has failed, I do think, based on my own experiences, that there was the makings of a community once upon a time, but I think it was more so communities depending on which part of London and the UK that you were in. But I do think that as the demographics have changed, as people have died off that were pillars of the older communities, if you will, it's become even more decentralized. So it's literally anything and anything that you want to make it. Do you see what I'm saying? So I know, for example, if I speak of myself, I know that I've done different things to contribute to the idea of a community. Do you understand? I know for a fact I have. I don't go around patting myself on the back. I don't go around promoting this, but I know that I definitely have. But in the course of doing so, I realized kind of how futile it was. And so the biggest contribution at this point that I've concluded I can make is through writing and speaking on streams and disseminating ideas. And I realized that for some people, they take umbrage with that, whether it's maybe perhaps the way I enunciate my words or my cadence, or do you see what I'm trying to say? But I have to take the risk that someone may dislike me or dislike what I'm saying, or both. But in time to come, they might actually see the value of what I've put out there. You see, and that's the best I can do, man. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, great points. Great points from Diego if in building. We had the Freedman's podcast, but he had to journal, sorry, but he had to bounce. So salute to everyone on the panel. Links top of the chat in the description if you want to jump on. Okay. But okay, second round, so we can make it a more of a conversational discussion. But I want to touch on let me see. Sorry, I want to touch on what Jesse was talking about, and it it sounds quite relevant. But Jesse in the opener was saying that basically there is a maybe an antagonistic kind of contrast effect in the UK, whereas middle class white people feel a certain way, and I don't know if it's fully aligned with this topic, but it made my ears stand up because we got a lot of these content creators out here, white British content creators who are ad nauseum talking about basically their unhappiness with black people, particularly. So I just want to kind of delve deeper into that, like Jesse, because I cut you off. If you can go deeper into that point, and then we can kind of dissect, like, or take away things from it that might pertain to how we might feel as black British people.
All right, I just want to make a few things clear as well before I do say this, right? I don't have any political affiliations. I hardly know anything about politics, right? I just observe what is in front of me. I see what the evidence is placed in front of me, and I make a decision in terms of what I think is right. Right? That's just how I roll.
Fair enough.
I take the emotion out, and I just look at it as a logical standpoint. Right now, my thing, what I will say is yes, has there been a lot of racism in this country for the past 50 years, right? Since the Windrush and maybe other times, of course. Now, what I'm saying is there's a new generation, or we say a new generation of whites who probably weren't racist, right? They probably weren't doing these atrocities, right? Now, the thing is what I don't understand is, all right, cool. I understand the reparations argument, so on and so forth, right? Now, what I don't understand is, how are you going to be repaid if the people that did do these atrocities are now dead or pretty much old now, right? And to be honest, you've got a new generation coming up. They have nothing to do with this, right? Can't we just at least cut them a bit of slack in regards of it? Now, if there is some racists who are still perpetuating these so-called, let's say, racist behaviors, then yes, of course condemn their behavior and so on and so forth, right? But you got to understand that even though, yes, we have our history, we got to understand that they've got their history too, right? And in my opinion, if you want race relations to be better in this country, you're going to have to understand each other's cultures and point of views, right? We're going to have some very uncomfortable conversations, right? Take the emotion out, get right down to the biz on both sides, and talk things out. Right, this is the only way it's going to change.
Do we conform? Is kind of that what you're saying? That we need to conform a bit more.
I'm not saying conform. What I'm saying is, you gotta understand, we're in a country, right? I was born here, right? I was born and bred in Britain. I understand my parents are of a certain descent, right? Grenadian, Trinidadian. But what we got to understand is that we were born here, try and assimilate with the culture. Yes, take some values from your parents, so on and so forth, of course. But also take into consideration that you're also British and there's also a history here that is of this land. That's all I'm basically saying, right? What I'm also trying to point out is I don't like this idea of eroding certain history because of it offends people. The reality is history, right?
Are you talking about like during the BLM kind of issues back in like 2020 when they took down some statues and stuff like that?
Right. I don't see a point in this because it doesn't change anything. The reality is it's already happened, right? Taking down the statues is just a token, in my opinion, a token gesture, right? What you got to do is actually get down to the roots of the problem, stop cutting around the corners, and get around to what is the root issue. And the root issue is that race relations needs to be improved, right? That's just the reality. White, black, Asian, doesn't matter. We've got to understand each other's cultures, right? I have white friends, I have Asian friends, so on and so forth, right? I understand their cultures, I understand where they're coming from also, right?
Okay,
Wait. I make them understand my point of view as well, right? And that's how you gain understanding, and that's how you improve race relations. This actually happened very recently. I'm gonna finish it right here, and I'll let you land, right? Even though I'm not American, right? There was a interview, right, that happened between, I think it was a guy called Scott Adams and Hotep Jesus, right? Now, they had two different, let's say, ideologies, right? What happened is they talked it out, right? One condemned each other's behavior, so on and so forth, and they tried to understand where each other was going. If we actually do that more often, instead of getting emotional and triggered and getting this, we might actually get in a better spot, right? And I'm talking about as a country as a whole, right? Because I do this a lot, and I haven't had any problems, right? I don't look at things at emotional standpoint. I look at things at logical, and I understand that certain people are going to say certain things, and I know I'm going to say certain things, right?
Okay. What I wanted to say is, I'm not going to land your point, but I basically wanted to interject in saying that you said that, you know, race relations need to improve, you know, for as one the kind of issue. But you also mentioned that obviously this is an established country with its own history and norms and culture. So therefore, it kind of sounds like, you know, even though you said not conform, that black people, like Caribbean descent, African descent, they need to do a better job of understanding that fact and kind of falling under that banner. Like that's what it sounds like, because when we're talking about race relations, someone has to extend the handshake further. You know what I mean? Someone has to be a bit more gracious, or you know, it's not going to be 50-50 basically. It's not going to be a 50-50 cultural exchange. So is it not that are you not saying that black people do need to conform a bit more to align with the kind of tenets of this country to improve the quote unquote community and to an extent,
yes. To an extent, yes. And let me explain why. What I mean by this, right? I am not saying don't forget where you come from, don't forget your roots. That's not what I'm saying, right? I understand where you come from, right? You're a descendant of maybe Nigerians, right? Or your parents are Nigerians, so on and so forth. Lovely group of people, right? I am someone who is of Grenadian descent, right? Grenadian descent and Trinidadian respect. I still take on their culture. I still understand their values, so on and so forth, right? I don't know where Diego Afe is from, or so on and so forth, and Shirian, wherever he's from, right? The reality is there has to be a balance, right? There has to be a balance of understanding each other's cultures and just talking about things and great an understanding. Because the funny thing is when I took time to understand each other's cultures and understand their talking points and not come from a point of, let's say, I'm triggered or they are racist, right? I started to understand their point of view and they started becoming more comfortable, right? And they were able to say what they really truly wanted to say, right?
Mm.
If we get all triggered and get all upset and get emotional, right? I never said not. I didn't say all Nigerians. I just said Nigerians, right? Let's just remember. Anyway, right? The thing is what I'm saying is, I'm gonna end this here, right? Is there has to be a balance. You gotta understand each other's cultures. Don't be quick to react, right? See what is placed in front of you. Look at it at a logical standpoint. See what evidence is there in front of you, and then come to a logical conclusion, right?
Mm-hmm.
Take the emotion out of it. That's what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm. Strong points, man. To anyone else on the panel, do you feel like, I mean, we're talking, I guess, more in line with the Black British community and identification in the country, the United Kingdom. Do we need to conform more? Like, do we need to do more to be a part of this, the British nation?
Yeah, you have to support each other at all times. You have to, do that, but it's not going to be easy because we live in a competitive society. It's not white people's fault that they may not want to buy from black-owned business, and they may not you want to buy just like Asians. So that means you have to have stronger support. But then again, there is no collective black identity in the UK in terms of ethnicity. Everyone is different origin and different background.
Mm-hmm.
Like Jesse said, Jesse is of Trinidadian and Grenadian descent. Falcon is of Nigerian. So like, everyone comes from different cultures and ethnicity. So that doesn't necessarily reflect on all black British people per se, but what I want to get across what Jesse said about reparations, it's not going to happen. Why do you think one of the most dominant people that...
Okay, one second, brother. Hold that thought, please. 1 second. Hold the thought of reparations. I just want to get to Diego as well, because I think we want to jump in on the initial talking point of confirmation, okay? But hold that thought, please, and bring it up in a bit, okay, of reparations. But Diego, do you feel like, to some degree, Black British people, African Caribbean, need to do a better job of being citizens within the country?
To be honest, I think it's already been in motion. I think that assimilation is not necessarily like a clean kind of like, for example, you literally just decamp from your present kind of like in quote ethnic identity to basically being like the consummate Brit. I think it's something that is in motion, you understand? Once you arrive on these shores and you stay here for a number of years, even if you're someone that tries to do the transnational thing, which most people can't do, you start to lose proximity with the culture. So I'm sure you've seen this before, where you may have a Nigerian relative or relatives who may have grown up in Nigeria for a good chunk of their lives, right? And they have this almost kind of cocksure attitude that you drop them in Nigeria tomorrow, they can easily get about. Like literally they'll take to like a dove, like a duck to water. But when they get there, they realize that actually, no, they got it wrong, and that the society has moved quicker and faster than they would ever have imagined. That am I making sense? You can, once you go into the diaspora, you leave your point of origin. You can't maintain that link, so you naturally end up assimilating. You can look at every group and it's happened. If we look at the Caribbean population in the UK, right, one of the key things, I'm talking about more so like your older boomers and like your silent gen, right? They took umbrage at the idea of the census identifying people as black or Asian, because the argument was that if you're using the census to break down systemic barriers and stuff based on race, why do you need to identify race? It actually makes it easier to discriminate, not basically makes it less hard. So that was something they resisted for near 2 decades. And then eventually Britain made sure that it identified people along race. So that already implies there that they were looking to assimilate as quickly as possible. But naturally speaking, you're going to, what's the word I'm looking for here? You're gonna somewhat veer to like what you're used to. So stuff like Caribbean restaurants and certain, almost like reconstituting elements of Caribbean life is inevitable. It will happen. Your Irish Brits, for example, there were certain things that Irish people that came here to basically work, or Scottish people, for example, did that were peculiar to where they came from, whether it was Wexford and Ireland or whether it was Hamilton in Scotland or wherever. But they eventually become English after the second, the third, the fourth generation. It's just that it won't look exactly the same. But I am telling you now, already is happening. Building on the Caribbean example, most of them assimilated into the white working class. So if you listen to their attitudes, you see a lot of the occupations, especially the men went into, these are blue collar trades. Do you understand? If you look at like a lot of the Nigerians, for example, whilst there may be some isms and certain tendencies like listening to Afrobeat and certain things they can identify with, I would argue that they're assimilated. There's different things. Like even for example, someone like the Somali kind of acquaintances that I have, I've noticed that the women, when they were younger, wore hijabs, but they're not wearing hijabs anymore. You understand? There's certain cultural, do you understand, practices that identified what they are, so I'm seeing it from different groups. Do you understand? Whether it's the West Africans, whether it's the Horn, whether it's like your Zim people, this, that, and the other. So the reason why, for example, prevailing American popular culture has appealed is because it's part of what I will call like a, what's the word I'm looking for? It's like a mechanism towards, an identity that people are cool with, if that makes sense. But you can't stop assimilation. Assimilation is inevitable. I'm sure our American brothers that are listening, if they observe, depending on where they are in the US, they will see that you had German Americans, especially in places like Pennsylvania, like the Dutch, Pennsylvanians, and Amish, and that. A lot of them have now assimilated into some kind of quintessential Americanness, if that makes sense. Whereas they had certain, I don't want to go on ad nauseum, but the point I'm making is that assimilation is inevitable. It is in motion, and it just is not. Sometimes you've got to take a step back and actually observe and see, okay, and actually, no, this is actually happening. It just won't look the same. That's ultimately comes down to. So
yeah, great point, man. Shah 25, you wanted to jump in with your
Yeah. I find it stupid. I think, reparations is not a good idea, because how are you going to ask a group of people that are known for colonizing pretty much every country in the world at one point during, for centuries, and stuff, Europeans for something? They're not going to give it to you. They hate giving, the oppressed ones the money. That's like begging, that's like a homeless person begging a rich person, if
hey, one second. Like, I get your point, but from my ignorant view on history, I believe, for example, the Japanese who got nuked twice by Americans, they were given reparations to rebuild. Maybe I could be wrong.
No, you're right. $88,000 each.
But Japan itself is a country, and and a nation itself. But black folks, they live in America, and stuff, and they got the Tuskegee thing, from Alabama, from what I heard, and stuff. So like they did get compensated at one point, and the thing is like that's not going to do anything. Like there's a lot more worse things, that be happening, and it just doesn't make any sense.
Okay, let me ask you this: as a Black Canadian, I assume that and somewhere in your family tree, they were slaves in the New World, right? Do you not feel like if you're their descendant, you deserve some reparations?
No, that's weak. I've always thought.
What's weak about that?
I always
having a generation of people working, the land, contributing to what the country becomes now in the modern day. You don't feel like you deserve a cut as someone who's been, a descendant of these types of people who have been marginalized and who have been discriminated against,
my family
killed.
My family has always been working, and that's not necessarily a good thing to get money. That's like asking someone to profit off the dead, by making films and stuff. I just don't think it's the right decision, because all it
Okay.
does is bring unfairness and stuff, and then every other group is gonna demand for some sort of payment. And I just think it's like stupid how like they create divisive terms like FBA and ADOS and stuff like that. That doesn't make any sense, and there's so much problems. But Falcon, to get back to the point, like, what do you think is a main like underlying cause to like out of wedlock births, and a lot of like nowadays I see a lot of race mixing, between black men. I see
Okay,
a lot
bro,
of
that wasn't the point, but we can raise it up in a bit, okay?
The
So sorry, who's coming in?
Desmond Quill can talk.
Sure, come in, Jesse.
All right. About the reparations, right?
Mm-hmm.
Here's my point of view, right? If reparations happened a lot more earlier, right, then you may have a case, right? The issue, in my opinion, with reparations is that a lot of time has passed, right? I will admit that slavery did probably have a toll on basically black people, and one of my definite keys would be generational wealth, right? And that would be things like what I call the triple, or what people will say, the trickle down effect, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, the thing is, where we really got to look at is we're technically are living in the thing that, or let's say we're living in the place that, let's say, the so-called resources was taken from. So technically we are living in it right now, which was, I guess, taken from descendants of whoever, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's another point we've also got to point out, right? Now, the other thing as well, the issues is there was blacks who also had slaves who are also slave owners, right? So this is where it gets a bit complex, right? We don't know who we're giving reparations to who, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, regarding the Nagasaki, or was it Nagasaki or Pearl Harbor, or whatever the thing was called.
Hiroshima and Nagasaki, yeah. Nagasaki, was it? Yeah, I think it was.
Right. That was not recent, but you could identify who was pretty much in that war, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then another argument then you'll have to make as well, if it's African descendants or Caribbean descendants, is if, let's say, we are asking for reparations from, let's say, white Europeans, right? Then you're going to have to also ask for reparations from the people from before, which is the Arabs, right?
Oof.
Right. This is where it gets very, very tricky, right? This is why, in my opinion, yes, reparations, I don't think it's a bad idea. It's the timing and the complexity of this issue, and also how you're also affecting innocent people who had nothing to do with it, right?
Okay.
That's really the issue. If I did say, oh, hey, look, maybe if it was recently before, I know the situations were not ideal for black people in that time when it would have been the ideal time. It's very difficult and it's very complex to basically identify, right? Mm-hmm. So that's really my argument regarding reparations. That's really it.
Okay.
Can I chime in real quick as well?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So I mean I've had to work on this. I've had to look into it for research purposes, and what I've taken from it is this, right? The idea of reparations is effectively a legal claim against the state. So
did you say legal or illegal?
No, a legal claim,
okay.
like class action lawsuit, basically. Mm-hmm. That's what it would be. You can't, and because it's messed up. I'm literally just putting out the facts. Because under the institution of slavery, it didn't recognize black people as fully human, 3/5 of a human, and that was not necessarily based on a genuine conviction. It was just based on politics, right? In order to justify doing the wickedness they did. Because it didn't recognize them as such, you can't use it on that basis. What you can claim reparations for is the systematic discrimination that has occurred following the manumission in 1865. So pretty much, Jim Crow, like the sort of segregation, your vagabond code, like, you understand stuff like that.
Mhm.
Lack of accessibility to, because they had white affirmative action, for example. The government sponsored the migration, or should I say the relocation of poorer white people to the suburbs. So that was a government program that subsidized that. And in the course of doing that, they attained generational wealth. Even in places like, on the West Coast and that, black people who were effectively ghettoized weren't even allowed to be able to buy their houses from the bank. You understand? Whereas, the restrictions or access to capital is far greater for white and for other ethnic groups than it was for black people. So the claim on reparations would be for that, because the state has basically disadvantaged them systematically and for generations coming out from slavery. Now, there's already been a few academics that have actually done costings based on roughly what that would look like, and the figures range from 3/4 trillion up to 20 trillion. You understand? Now, of course, the issue with that is how to make sure that it would be effectively used. What I mean by that is, you don't want to get the money to the Americans that are eligible for it, and then because of inflation, it erodes away the purchase paper. So the question now comes down to, is it going to be used for real estate, where part of it is literally in kind? You understand? Is it going to be a combination of that and business capital that the government advances? Is it going to be tax breaks? Is it going to, do you understand what I'm trying to say? Is it going to be scholarships for the best institutions? That's a question mark. You understand?
Right.
But they definitely have a claim in that respect. It's just that it's essentially the issue you're going to have is, if the government now settle, will it be that they're making a full admission and an apology, or is it literally like, do you understand what I'm trying to say? So that's the American side. And just very quickly on the Caribbean side, you're already having different governments that are making claims. So for example, with Barbados, there's the Drax family. The Drax family were pioneers, because obviously Barbados is the first sugar plantation in the New World, like Caribbean sugar plantation. The Drax family are the ones that pioneered, like the what do you call it, like sugar plantation, like cultivation. A part of that was Dungan, using human excrement to, like how you use cow excrement, human excrement. They called it
As
dung.
manure, is it?
Yeah, manure, yeah. And it worked. And that's what helped them to get a lot of sugar yields, right? Now, the point I'm making is, your current Drax, who's obviously several generations down, I forgot his first name. He's a Conservative MP, and he he's basically, his wealth is his wealth is in excess of 150 million pounds. So Barbados are basically petitioning him and his family for, you understand, for some form of reparations. So it's likely that might be in the low millions. They're looking at the housing estate that they have in Barbados, that being taken over and used as a museum, so that successive generations of Bajans know that this family were the ones that were instrumental in the trade, and also some other funding that will be used to help the lower income or poor Bajan people access like public services, like healthcare, housing, education, that kind of stuff, right? And lastly, with Grenada, just really quickly, there's a BBC news reporter that found out that her family was responsible, partly responsible for sort of slave traders, and essentially they owned 100 black Grenadians. So she now advanced her pension. I think she's donated £100,000 as her way. And she only found out by chance when she was looking into her family history. So anyway, I mean, I just share that because I know it's something which a lot of people talk about. There's a lot of conjecture, and there's not much parameters or actual critical kind of overviews on it. Anyway, yeah, just want to share that.
No.
Okay,
I
guys,
like 1 sec. No, 1 sec, Sha. 1 sec. 1 sec. Let me read the super chat on screen from MJA 2873. I really appreciate the $5 super chat, man. We got our Americans in the chat showing love. He says, yes, Japanese along with native Indians got reparations. Also, most black Canadians are descendants of free black American slaves and free Caribbean slaves. Oh yeah, going up north, right? Salute to MJA 282073, man. I appreciate you in the building. Always good to have your good noteworthy comments in the building. Salute to MJA. We spent a lot of time in reparations. I didn't really want it to go there, but our boy Shah took us there. But I just want to say this 1 second, Shah, because we can hear the background noise when you unmute, so that's why I'm muting. Pertaining to the Black British people of Caribbean descent, if they were given, just say somehow, some way, a lump sum of money from, just to alleviate the bad history, the slavery, do we think that will automatically help or improve, I don't know, cultural situations pertaining to Black Brits of Caribbean descent? And obviously I'm not of Caribbean descent, so I can't speak like I have some skin in the game on this, but I'm just, from a simplistic point of view, you give every Black Caribbean, Black British family, I don't know, $1 million. Is that necessarily going to help with regards to, I don't know, integration into the society? Certain family stats like the high crime rates that we currently deal with as Black people together. Do we think that will be instrumental in helping those type of situations? High STD rates, would that change people, make people basically better? Just as a quick segue, if anyone wants to answer that.
Can I mean, I know I spoke a bit at length, but
sure.
Quickly. Yeah, so it's actually interesting you asked that question. Have you heard of the MP? He's late now, Bernie Grant, the former Tottenham MP.
Sounds familiar, Bernie Grant.
Okay, he's a Guyanese Brit, but essentially he was one of the people, when you had the riots in the 80s, Broadwater Farm, he was a councillor, I think, in Haringey. And because of obviously his interaction with the community, he was, he used that to become, obviously elected in 87 general elections. Anyway, why I brought him up was he established the UK reparations movement in 1993. And the idea was for Caribbean people and West Africans that were interested in relocating, that the government would provide relocation grants. So there were discussions that were had at the time, which in today's terms, up to £100,000 would have been given as grants to those that were interested. But I think by about 98, the discussion basically died down. So that's the closest thing that has actually been discussed to Britain doing that. The issue, and it's a bit, I see. Okay, so the thing with the question when it comes down to if it would help them, the challenge one would have is identifying those who are in scope, because you'd have paperwork that would be needed for, and the eligibility would have to be established. Does that make sense? So the question now comes to who is going to be eligible, and then on top of that, the British government technically, if you can make an argument that they owe reparations to Caribbean people in the Caribbean, in the Caribbean. So if it's okay, can I ask, based on your question, would such money extend to just British Caribbean people or people here that are British of Caribbean roots, or would it be something that is the entirety of the Caribbean? And lastly, I don't mean, just one quick question, just to add to that question. The Caribbean people who aren't the descendants of enslaved Africans, but they're the descendants of post-enslavement indentures. So in other words, you had several would-be Nigerians that after slavery was over went to basically to the Jamaica, Barbados, Grenada. So they weren't technically the descendants, but they were indentured people that stayed over and then go back to Africa. So would they also be eligible? So anyway, go on.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm thinking with a very kind of ignorant scope. I'm just thinking of anyone in this country, who claim, or their parents are of Caribbean descent. Maybe they came to UK via Windrush, and so that's kind of their stake in it. So I'm mainly thinking about people here, basically, people of so-called Caribbean descent receiving, those finances as reparations. If that answers your question.
Okay, right. Okay, no. Yeah, okay, fair enough. It's something to think about. It's a bit of a interesting question.
Yeah. We've probably got a bit too far into reparations, man. So, but Shah, you brought it up and you wanted to say something. So, what's on your mind before I change the subject? Because I need to mention a few key things.
Yeah,
But
I want to say that reparations is going to be impossible because the United States is already $31 trillion in debt. How can you expect to pay?
Okay. I know your reference point is the United States, but I'm more thinking about the people who
No,
were involved in slavery over here in the UK.
No, for the Caribbeans, they already have some form of reparations. It's called CARICOM. If those are not familiar, I know Kings and Queens and Jesse might be familiar with what CARICOM is, and they can further explain what it is.
Okay. Okay. Since he brought it up, if anyone can quickly detail what CARICOM is before we move topic. I don't know if Kings and Queens knows about it or Jesse knows about it.
Hi team, hi Falcon. Thanks for bringing us
salute. Up. No problem. Salute. Good to have you on board, Kings. Do you know about CARICOM?
Yeah, I don't know it in detail. The little bit that I do know of it, I really wouldn't call it reparations though. It's as I understand it, it's some kind of trading block, right? In the Caribbean. But I don't know. I'm not going to say that I know the detail because I really don't. As I understand it though, I'm very familiar with the topic of reparations. I certainly wouldn't call that reparations. No one that I've ever spoken to refers to that as reparations. Is a massive.
That sounds like a fair trade type of situation, or am I wrong?
I mean, the little bit that I know of it is that it's a group trading block. Pseudo. It doesn't really work very well. That's the bottom line of it.
Right.
For various reasons, the US control the region, and they pump guns into the Caribbean because people like Michael Manley wanted a trading block, if you like, with Cuba, and the US said no. Okay, so the all of trade in that basin is controlled by the US, and that is the obvious issue with all of it.
Okay. I kind of want to move on to this point, okay, and I know it's more of an ignorant point with kind of regards to what I mentioned earlier, but back to like Black British men failing as a community, obviously there's men in the title, so I want to speak about Black fathers, yeah, because overwhelmingly a talking point that we always discuss. I've got a few streams dedicated to Black single mothers, and there's a general concern and irritation towards single mothers of the Black community. But I want to ask then, in an ignorant way, like a relaxed, chilled out way, conversational, like have Black men also failed as fathers? Okay.
Let me interject, and I will say
one second, Jess. I'll come straight to you.
Right.
And I just want to premise why I'm saying this, because the predominating talking point is that, hey, a lot of these Black single mothers, they sealed their fate. They firstly intermingled with the wrong type of man, right? Normally in America, the Americans call it Pookie and Rare. We need to find our own term for that. And finally, they got all these rights where they were able to kick men out. And so therefore, the children that they had the fate of growing up in a single parent environment, right? But from my anecdotal experience, especially from the African side, the story is more or less akin to the Black father just got up and left, especially the affluent Black men, the Black men who might have links to African nobility, the chiefs, like they just pretty much got up, for one, obviously not automatically just like that, but it could be, okay, I'm fed up here, I need to do this, gone over there, create their own another family, and just create like a string of, in some cases, many other children, many other family groups. And but I find that this is a part of the discussion that no one really wants to talk about, or it gets killed as soon as someone mentions it, because it's not apparently either on code thing to say, or it doesn't align with certain stats. So that's why I'm asking, Jess. So what do you think about that, Jess? And then we'll go around the panel.
So I have nicknames, right?
Mm.
I have nicknames, right? There's one called Negodamus, the great predictor of black events,
Mm-hmm.
and also Jesse McCoon King, right? Now,
Mm.
let me explain some things, right? And this is why I don't get involved in these so-called Black Manosphere talks or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've been there, done that, so on and so forth, right? This is what happens, right? I don't care if it's the UK or the US, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's both responsibility of the mother and the father, right? In regards of the dysfunction in the black community, right? What I tend to see is in the black community, or let's say on the online community, is passing the buck, right? No, it's your fault. No, it's your fault, and you're basically
Mm-hmm.
hitting the ball over the tennis, uh, let's say net back and
Yeah.
forth, and nothing gets really resolved. This is why I just feel it's a waste of time,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
The reality is, and even based off my experiences, since my father basically left me at 10 years old, right?
When
He
you
went
say
up,
left, obviously this is personal, so if you don't want to go deeper, but when you say left, because I think that's the crucial point that a lot of people
right,
might mistranslate. When you say left, was it like basically, yeah, I want to go back to the home, to
right,
my homeland?
right.
What
He's
was
going back
left?
to right, going back to his homeland, right?
Mm-hmm.
People say, there was whatever people saying that a doctor said that, oh, he needs to go back and get his son. All right, cool, right, fair enough. And then he passed away when I was in my early 20s, right? So no father in the home,
Mm-hmm.
right? Needed him in my most, let's say, developmental years, and it was a struggle, right? I had to work 2 times or 3 times harder than the average person that didn't have the father in the home. The reason why it
Mm-hmm.
was my other masculine part was missing. Yes, my mother did a great job, so on and so forth, fought for me, cool, right? And that's because of my autism and Asperger's syndrome and a whole bunch of stuff, right? But the reality is, there's a book called The Boy Crisis. I've actually tried to get people to actually read that book. They don't want to read it because whenever I talk about the realities about what happens with black, and I've done lectures, right? I've done talks, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've done talks, right? I've done PowerPoint presentations in public, speaking to educational psychologists in Russell Square, right? The
Mm-hmm.
issue is, right, is when you don't have a father in the home, it's very difficult to find your purpose, right? And you're more prone to be a person that has the failure to launch, right? Now, the issue with that is, right, is both, right? It's both the black woman and the black man, right? It's both. They both have instances. If you're going around sleeping with whoever it is, right, and he's not the viable man to be to basically sustain that income or a household, then sorry, that's on you, right? Then you have a black man who, not all, obviously, I'm not generalizing all black men, I just want to make that clear,
Mm-hmm.
right? Is that you have them doing crime, you have them perpetuating certain stereotypes that, let's say, is not conducive or progressive for black people or in the black community. And then
Mm-hmm.
you've also have um, this culture that is displayed in certain degenerate terms, right? It has evolved over, let's say, the time, right? I would say in the Caribbean, it was a little bit more conservative in the earlier years, but maybe if it's because black people are exposed to Western culture, I don't know, but I still see some of these behaviors in the Caribbean as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's both, right? And until both parties hold themselves accountable for the actions and what is causing the next generation, it's nothing's really gonna change. That's just the honest truth. It's
Mm-hmm.
sad to say this. I think it's far gone. Um, there's already a divide. There's a difference between the blacks who let's say, who are doing the right thing, and then there's the blacks who are doing the wrong thing. right?
Mhm.
And in my opinion, unfortunately, in my opinion, based off what I'm seeing here in London, I would say there's less good blacks that are doing the right thing, and then there's more degeneracy, right?
Okay.
That's,
Okay.
that's how I see it, but I could be
Okay.
wrong.
Great points, man. I want to go around the panel with this, man. Have black men in the UK failed as fathers, generally speaking?
Can I chime in?
Sure, of
Yeah, go
course.
ahead.
Yeah, the answer is yes, but not because, but not in the way that you may think. You see the issues in the UK, right, are very, very similar to how they are in America. Now that you're right, they use words like pookie and ray ray, which I don't really use those words, but words that people have used in the UK for, I don't know, 45, 50 years, been one word, and that's roadman, right?
Mhm.
That term is, in fact, it used to be, they used to call those kind of boys rude boys, right? So
Mhm.
in the 60s, early 70s, they used to all be called rude boys. That's where that's the root of the word, and they
Mhm.
made records about rude boys, basically. It just means the same thing. That's where that
Mhm.
message to you, Rudy. That's where it comes from, right?
Mhm.
And it's just, stop your messing around. Time to think of the future. They're talking about, the kind of guy that doesn't think of the future. It's as
Right.
simple as that. He just goes around spreading his seed, right? So those guys failed, right? Now the reason why I say it's similar to the US is this one simple thing. You see, in the last few years, right, most guys in the UK basically don't get don't get any play with the opposite sex. It's as simple as that. A lot of guys talk about it but don't get it, right? So that whole statistic of a few of the majority of women wanting the top few guys, right? Whether guys want to admit it or not, that's actually quite true. And and so, but here's the main thing though. This is the main thing, right? You see, if we're talking about community, or the black community, then we
Mhm.
have to then talk about whether, at the end of the day, we have to talk about, regardless of what women do. My channel, I talk a lot about what women do and don't do,
Mhm.
but one part where black men fail is withdrawing your seed, right, and not giving your sperm to women who basically don't deserve it. And it's the whole thing about men, black men, all men, but we're talking about black men, making women work harder to get sperm. In the last 1 year, right, I've asked women some specific questions around semen and sperm, right? And basically, what black women tell me is, no matter what black men say or do, black women feel that they'll always have access to black men's sperm, right? So you can
Mhm.
say whatever the hell you want, you can talk, go where, but they feel, right, that they can shake a leg, do whatever, basically, right, that they can act on the lowest level and still have access to your
But
sperm.
is that not generally true? Because I mean, when people hear the 80-20 rule, we kind of imagine a group of guys who fall within, who are without the realms of that 20%, and they are basically desperate.
It
That's
is
what
true.
that current stat makes kind of tries to envision, is the desperate group of men who, the D is dry and they haven't got play in years, right? So isn't that true then, that yeah, most women can easily get the man's seed, like,
It
very
is.
easily?
Yes, this is what I'm trying to say. It is one in 2023, right? It is 100% true. But why wasn't that true in 1958? Like, this is the question, right? In other words, I know we're living in different times and places. My granddad came here in 1960. I could talk all day long about the Windrush and all the. I really, really could.
Mhm,
But none of, and I seriously could. I'm going to bore you with
mhm.
all of it, right?
No,
But
but I think my thing is that, generally speaking, it seems that we say that women pick the worst guys over time, because I don't think this is strictly a modern phenomenon. Women will always pick the most physically assertive type of guy, I think on a very genetic, or even if they don't pick that type of guy, they will cheat with that type of guy. So I think, it's not a new phenomenon, and I think even in the 50s, this might have been a fact, generally speaking.
It was bar arranged marriages. You see, here's the thing, right? If you've got a dad who basically says you're not marrying him, this is the guy you're going to marry, or if you've got a traditional way of courting, all of that. Now, don't get me wrong. What children want to do, and I call it's going to be, I don't care how it sounds, right? Women basically are like kids, right? Right. What kids want to do is basically do what the hell they want to do. They don't want any barriers, right? What fathers do is stop their kids from basically getting pregnant. It's as simple as that. And as weird as it sounds, they stop their girls from going out and having sex with the rude boy down the road, right? And he says, nah, that's not going to happen. That's when that's a father in the home. That is the difference. That's the very specific difference. When we say are men, I can't remember what your question was, Falcon, but if
good
we're going to say, yeah, if are men good fathers, part of being a good father is stopping your girls getting pregnant. Actually, that's part of being a good father. Part of being a good father, as I know people might call it, oh, it's misogyny. No, it's not. Part of being a good father is stopping your daughter getting pregnant, right? It is, and until she's guess what, married, right? And I know it sounds old-fashioned, but if we're not going to factor that in, then what are we talking about? And you see, and so the difference between 1958 and 2023 is that control. He sees the word control. That control mechanism of a father in the house, a married father in the house. That's a control mechanism. Minus that, which is what we've got today, all hell has broken loose. You've got young girls going out, and I could tell you, in my work as a youth worker years and years and years ago, I don't do that now. I saw it firsthand. No dad in the house, right? I'm generalizing because obviously, we're going to say, I know such and such a person with a dad in the house. She got pregnant. I'm talking generally speaking, no dad in the house, right?
Okay, I hear that, kings and queens, but I think I'm more talking about, okay, why is there no dad in the house? So in the instance where the man just I mean, I've met them. There are some men that just don't really have that paternal instinct, that just don't care, and are just not interested to some degree. And I know this might not be the on-code thing to say, but we kind of see this. And I come from a big family, and I've seen it within my family as well, that guys just, a lot of our relatives were raised in like boarding schools, private schools, with maids who cook and clean, so they come into the world very ignorant, especially coming to a country like the UK. And of course, one thing might lead to another, and they might just go into the club in life or whatever, and one thing leads to another. So I guess
don't get me wrong, Falcon, right? I think you're quite right when you talk about, because I've heard a few Nigerian women, not only Nigerian women, but women from different parts of the African continent, tell me exactly the story that you told. They told me that they. But remember, it's interesting that it's coming from you, because all the other stories that I've heard have come from women, right? Whereby the guy was married here, didn't, for whatever reason, they upped and left and went back home, right? Now, what I would love is to do a proper study on all of that. Take away the anecdote, and let's do some proper facts, figures, and a real study on it. I don't think it should be paved over, and I think it needs to be examined properly and see exactly what the full extent and the reasons for whatever happened there in reality. You see, because and the reason why I say a proper academic study, so we got facts and figures, is because normally what happens in the UK is that when daddy leaves the house, when the babies are too small, right, the children generally see daddy walking out, and in their heads over time, the image of daddy walking out, right, and never coming back is the prevailing image. But what the children don't know is that the family court, because in this country there's been a family court for 45, 50 years, right? The family court has ordered daddy to come out of the house. I'm not saying that's the case in the situation that you said. I would never say that. I do not know, but we need to know. right? So that we can basically understand what's going on there. But that is the very general picture. So, but I'm going to be really honest with you again, right? Even though women, you see, as far as I'm concerned, honestly, women will do whatever the hell they want to do in order to have control. That's what I think. It's just within a Western woman's nature. What men have to do, right, is be very mindful, vet. We've got to do what we've got to. If we want community, if we value community and everything that comes with it, reparations doesn't come unless you've got a group of people there that are prepared to fight for it. And generally speaking, that's a build-up of community. If you've got no vested interest in any place, right, as a man, because you've been shooed out of the house, what the hell are you going to fight for? Reparations. You're gonna go out, you're gonna go wherever you're going to go somewhere else where you can have community, right? You're not going to go and fight with a bunch of people that don't even want you there. Half the people, i.e., the women, right? So, but the reason why I'm talking about putting the onus on men, right, is because we need to, and I know it's going back to the roadman thing and all the rest of these things, and it's about working. It's about we being the ones that are more, how can I say, educated around all of these issues, right? Sorry, this is why your channel is important, right? Teaching younger men and trying to work with road men about not splashing round seed, because the power for women is in the access to. This is going to sound really weird. It's in the access to sperm. That's where the power is for. Women have told me that, and they've said it with a smile. They said it with a smile.
You mentioned working with roadmen. I think when people hear that, they get their spine tingles, because over here it's like, nah, you can't work with the Pookie and the Ray Ray. You can't work with these roadmen.
You have to, because they live next to you. They live next to me. You know what I mean?
Point.
They're going to go to, what are you going to do? Your daughter's in the sweet shop and some little road boy walks in with a gun and starts shooting. You can't run away. What are you going to do? Box yourself in? No, you can't do that.
Okay. Strong points, man. We have to go into that later. But yeah, Diego Shaw, you want to speak about the black men's role in the UK? I don't know if Shaw. Diego. 1 second, Shaw. Diego came in first.
Yeah. So how do I basically put this? Yeah, what you're saying definitely is something which is familiar. The idea of like African men, obviously like those of like the first generation going back and creating families. That is something which has been replete. I won't lie to you. Like, I've seen, Kings and Queens made a good point. It's not necessarily going to be one particular reason why that happens, but what I've commonly heard, and this is even men that are pastors that preach in churches in the UK with large followings, but they just they don't like life here. So a lot of them, how I said to you before that to use the Nigerian example, the Nigerian migration to the UK was not something that was organized and planned. It was kind of like scattergun, and then loads of people that had Nigerian heritage just cross paths with each other after some decades, right? So a lot of these fathers didn't want to stay here. They didn't. And in many cases, there were younger women back home that they could create families with. So they could go back home to an environment they're familiar with. They can get themselves a younger woman, and they can, you get my point? The incentive to it, as you said, that paternal instinct, it takes a lot to come here to a cold place and you make the decision that you're going to feed your family and you're going to stick around come what may. There has to be a strong, deep-rooted paternal instinct, because if you don't think you're answerable to anybody, right, and there aren't men of your peer group that are from a similar background that will hold you to account, then you go about doing your things. And I'll say this now, a lot of men saw that when it came to the UK, there was free education, healthcare was probably even better then than it is now. Getting onto the housing register, all these different things. They're like, okay, don't worry, the society will look after my kids. So what I'm essentially saying is that they never brought into the idea of a community. So because no one's there to hold them to account. And then all they have to do, the certain people that this applies to, just blame it. If there's any issues where, in quote, black young men or black boys are menace to society or ASBOs or what have you, you just say, it's the Caribbean group. Do you understand? So then this way you can take the spotlight off the African men that are basically, do you understand what I'm trying to say? That are doing trifling-ish. You get my point? So, yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I do think that in many ways, there has been a failure when it comes to custodianship, direction, fatherhood, so on and so forth. And you spoke about the curse, or you asked a question of a curse. One of the issues that you have is that for young black men or black boys, whatever, who decide to transcend every potential limiting factor and obstacle, they don't get rewarded for it. Like it's almost as if like they tend to have far more people that supposedly look like them that don't want to see them succeed. Do you see what I'm saying? So it's quite deep rooted, because and that underlines the importance of a father. It's a complex topic, man. It's a complex topic, because even to use the Caribbean example, there's a lot of men who did want to do better by their kids, but they couldn't get access to work, and they decided to. When I say go on the road, maybe not your roadman trope now, because a lot of roadmen are not about that life. They go JD Sports and they adopt a kind of pseudo menacing swagger or air about them. I'm talking about guys before that were shifting weight and doing certain things that they probably shouldn't have been doing, but that was the only way in their minds to be able to provide. And then they ended up being institutionalized. And as I say, the rest is history. It's a complex topic, man.
Right. Yeah, fair enough. Great points. Sha25 wants to jump in before we kind of pivot.
Yeah. So, to say the least, I think that it's just a lack of, fathers in the home. That's the primary reason. And, women having sex with multiple other men. And that's another leading cause to why it's at its dysfunctionality and stuff. And, and the thing I want to say is that, like, there's way too many out of wedlock births. I've seen it many times now, and now I see a lot of younger black women, like I'm talking in their teens, having birth, and that's not a good thing, before marriage. That's not good, And
in your opinion, who's chiefly to blame for out of wedlock births?
I'm gonna say it's just lack of sexual discipline,
But out of the man or the woman, who would you say, in your opinion, is chiefly to blame?
Both. From both ends, because it's the father's responsibility once the child is, and I don't care if it's like he was young and dumb and he just left her, but that's still his kid. He has to take care of it. And I'm glad that I don't have a kid yet. I'm not planning to have a kid until I'm in a stable condition, and I don't even really want one, to say. But the thing is that, like, that's why a lot of them, and a lot of smoking, like weed, Molly, Percocets, and all these, like, things. I remember going to high school, countless amount, dudes always be smoking weed, together, and then sometimes they ask me if I want to smoke. I said no, I never smoked in my life, and that's the thing, it's like the embracement of criminality, in rap music, mumble drill. I know drill is very popular in the UK. That's where it originally came from,
No, they say that, but Chicago, I believe drill came from.
Yeah. But yeah, that's the primary reason why it is. And you notice in terms of, like, money and, like, wealth, blacks are, like, are at the bottom of the line, compared to any other race or groups. Like, it's usually Asian and Indians at the top, and then you have whites. And then you have Arabs, then you have whites, and then you have Hispanics, and then you have blacks at the last, which is
why
sad.
is that?
In America.
Why is that?
because it's just a lack of ownership, and I don't think blacks are poor. It's just that they spend too much money that they have, on unnecessary things like jewelry, sports cars, and
Okay, one issue with the way you describe blacks is when you you kind of speak in a third person. So, I mean, does that also apply to yourself as well? Like you do these things
yeah,
too?
of course. I'm guilty of it myself. I used to spend a lot of money for no reasons. I used to, want to, have fun with my friends, and I used to, overpay. I used to do a lot of things that I wasn't having control over. But now I'm starting to mature and see a lot of change. And
Right.
anytime. And it's not just like a community issue. I think it's just a fact that it's just a lot of us have influence over negative folks, and then we try to idolize and emulate what they want to become, and then we don't see how it affects us.
Okay.
And another thing is that a lot of these like rich basketball players like LeBron James.
Okay, bro. One second. We need to do one piece at a time. But you made some great points. I just want to pivot a bit because it's getting a bit late. Okay, but you brought up some great points anyway. So salute. Okay. Talking about roadmen. Okay, this is the whole Adekunle and Jerome debate, aka Pookie Ray Ray debate. Speaking with regards to the Black British community, like to the panel, and in alignment with what Kings and Queens said, is it that we have to kind of work with our degenerates, for lack of a better term, work with the crime aligned individuals to kind of establish this kind of hierarchy or community in the UK? Like, do we need to kind of build bridges between the Pookie and Ray Rays, basically?
Can I interject?
Yeah, sure, of course, Jesse.
All right. Here's the thing, right? I've done youth work, right, for a very long time, right? So certain dangerous areas, some nice areas, so on and so forth, right? The problem is there's a divide, right? The issue is there's a divide between blacks and, let's say, degenerate blacks, right? Now, the thing is, well, I nearly said it, right? I nearly said it, but let's just put it this way, right? The reality is there's just some people who are just so far gone, you can't help them, right? This is just the reality, right? And unfortunately, this has come to my conclusion, and people can't say, "Oh, you only live around white people." Nope. I actually I live around predominantly white people, but I have been invested in multiple cultures, right? The Hindus, grandparents, so on and so forth, and various things of that nature. I've been in temples, various things of that nature, right? Now, the reality is if black people want to succeed, there has to be a divide, unfortunately, and we're just gonna have to move away. They're just gonna have to move away. I'll give you a prime example of this. I know two African lawyers, right? Very, very well. I had a relative that moved to Northern Ireland, right? Now, the thing is as soon as and this is Kent, right? This is one of the most white areas you could potentially think of, right? This is in Kent, right? This is near Bexley and Blackfen and so forth, right? Now, these two African lawyers, right? They're a married couple, moved into the house that so and so forth. Now, I immediately could identify the reason why they're there. It's because they're probably some black people who have done well for themselves. The fact that they could buy that house, because it is a pretty expensive house, right? In an area like Kent, which is relatively safe, depending on the area of Kent that you're in,
Yeah.
right? Bit upper class, I'll say upper class, maybe middle class, right? The fact that they're there, right, it probably is an indicator that they probably want to move away from the dysfunction, right? Because in my opinion, other communities that I see, right, tend to stick near where their own is, right? Or let's just say their own background. For example, Asians tend to stick with Asians, blacks tend to stick with blacks, but if there's blacks who, let's say, are doing very well for themselves, they have to so-called move out of the hood, unfortunately. Right? There's a reason why this is, right? Black on black crime, various things of that nature, right? Unfortunately, this is the case, right? 12 years, been doing youth work, various things of this nature, autism advocacy, the lot, right? Being around place, so on and so forth, experience, whatever, right? This is the identifications that I'm seeing in the streets of London, right? So you don't see this happening, right? For example, you have Gary Lineker. Yes, I know. Oh, Gary Lineker's not a good example, right? But he's still in a higher class bracket, right? He lived in Isha. He stayed in Isha, right? You have John Bodyega, right? Black man, right? Let's say he made it from lower class right up to upper class, right? He's now left Peckham, and now he's now moved, I think it's Kensington, right? I'm not 100% sure if I'm wrong, right? This is the difference between the black man and other races, right? We have to move away from the degeneracy before that degeneracy actually takes us out, right? This is just the hard truth, right?
Great
this is
point.
just the reality, right? Luckily, this is why I thank my mum, right? Lovely mum, done really great things for me. The best thing she ever did for me was move me out of the black community and put me in a predominantly white area. And yeah, I'm going to say that.
You say that's the best thing she ever done for you?
Yes, and let me explain why. It was away from the crime. And I had a place where I could build a foundation, get down to work, right? Unfortunately, this is the case. I'm not saying all black people are going to take me out, but it reduces the risk, right? It reduces the risk significantly. Unfortunately, this is the case. And if you speak to any upper class black person or even a middle class black person that is trying to succeed, unfortunately, they have to move away, right? And unfortunately, if you look in the States, if you see black people who are so-called making it, some of them end up dead. Some of them end up being fleeced for their money or straight up taken out, right?
So
reality.
Are you saying that that is impossible for the so-called educated, well-to-do, up and coming progressive black person to kind of work together with our version of the Pookie and Ray Ray, the degenerates?
I don't think it may be a worth shot worth trying, but unfortunately, I just
don't see it.
I just don't see it, unfortunately. I wish it was a reality, but I just can't see it. There's one guy that has really pretty much proved his point. That actually spoke about this. His name is called Sarah Garvey, right? And this was before he was, in, let's say, the JPT times, right? And he talked about this at length, right?
Okay.
So
yeah, strong points from Jesse, man. Anyone else believes that we need to align with the Pookie and Ray Ray? And when I say we, I mean the progressive, well-to-do, or even the gifted. Some people just have naturally been benefited, socially to be in certain positions, right?
So no, the reality is this. I think agency is a key thing. I understand that people don't make choices in a vacuum. Of course, their formative years will influence their, the choices they make if they choose to kind of identify more on the roadside and what have you. And because they've made their choice, I mean, I think it would almost be infantilizing to be like, oh yeah, I'm better than you. Because you're not saying it necessarily, But by you making the effort to work with them in proximity because they're Pookie and Ray Ray, they are going to feel like, oh, so you think you're better than me. And in some ways, they're not entirely wrong. Do you understand?
Mm-hmm.
So even if you have good intentions and you want to, in quote, pull them up, right? They have a different worldview. They don't necessarily see that as a come up in many cases. In fact, you probably have more to lose than they do. So when it comes down to working together, the most effective collaboration will occur where everybody, by and large, has something of value to lose, and therefore they're invested in positive outcomes. You understand? And in such an instance, you typically, as the more productive guy, is going to have more to lose.
Right.
And then also, what would happen is that naturally, if you're in proximity with those types of guys, you're going to be in proximity with their female counterparts. Because if we're really going to talk about the dichotomy of the productive man and the so-called roadman Pookie, UK equivalent of Pookie Ray Ray, there's also women that are the female version and are better suited to them as mates. And it just is what it is. So you as a productive guy might see a woman who has the look of what you're interested in, but she ain't checking for you because she wants a guy that is in that Pookie situation, but in a way which is not entirely dissimilar to the American case. When it doesn't work out with him because she can't get him on a leash and he doesn't have that paternal instinct, then by you willing to be grouped together, you now are, as far as she and other people are concerned, you're on the hook for something you have nothing to do with. Because you wanted to do community. So it ends up basically being loss. There's no real, you spoke about earlier in the stream about the idea of reciprocity, symbiosis, and in that instance it's unnatural. It's an unnatural relationship because there isn't really much to gain. It's maybe a pat on the back from certain people like, yeah, you're down for the community, but what do you have to lose? And when you do lose, who's going to be there with you to pick up the pieces? What if you can't recover again? What if you end up being the very thing you worked hard not to be because you put yourself in that position? Anyway.
Yeah, strong points. So anyone else, can the progressive black person work with the Pookie to, strengthen this idea of community in the UK?
Can I chime in, Falcon?
Yeah, for sure.
You see, so this is my view, right? I'm of the view that the black community in the UK is dead, full stop, right? I'm of the view that the black community in the UK is dead because basically it's been replaced by baby mama culture. It's as simple as that, right? One has been replaced by the other, right? So for me, right, it's either black men, right, the ones that have got a brain, deal with it and change it, or basically just may as well leave the country and go and do something else. Because I'll be really honest, it's interesting that you had as one of your 5 guys, if I'm quoting you wrong, right? But I think he said something about the lone wolf, or did you not? I'm not.
Yeah, that was the last archetype, the lone wolf. I don't need a community ninja.
Well, I was speaking about the lone wolf guy. I don't know, about a couple of years ago. We just on a Zoom call or something, right? You got loads of them in there. Yeah, that's where it was. It was on a radio thing, right? Basically, it's a lot of guys in the UK are lone wolves, right? Not a member of any community because there is no community, right? Basically, doing quite well in their own lives, but they're an army of one, right? So basically, they're just very, 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 very vulnerable. No matter how strong they are, they're just very vulnerable, right? So,
right.
but I can't blame them because obviously there is no community unless they want to. Because there is none. So this is why I say it's either we the guys that got some level of brain, right, do something to influence the culture in a positive way, or leave, right? Because but it's a dangerous position to be a lone wolf in an environment where you have no community, where you're on your own, But that's a dangerous place to be. It's better
Right.
to leave, go somewhere and be. But there's one other little point going back to, because I was thinking as well. I'll be very quick, right? You spoke about that Nigerian case where it's not just an isolated case where guys leave their families and go back home. You know, again, interesting. I gave a presentation to about 150 women, right? One woman came up and said she's got a problem with her husband, right? Her husband wants to go back to Ghana, but she doesn't want to go. She wants to stay in the UK, right? So I said, all right, what are your, what are your marriage vows, right? Because they're married. Oh, she promised to do this, 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 and this. Okay, does it include following your husband, your leader? She goes, well, yeah, it does. You see what it is, right? And even my own brother, right? He wants to go back to Jamaica. His wife wants to stay here. Kids have grown up and gone. They got 3 kids. They're grown up. House is paid for, right? He wants to go back to Jamaica. She don't want to go. What you'll find, Falcon, when you ask women, married women that have been married for a long time living in the UK, the women, generally speaking, want to stay in England. They want to stay put because they've made a nest. It's the men who want to go back to
I hear that. But isn't that reasonable that, women who have, they've created their family here, they got their kids here, they don't want to uproot and leave to another country? Like,
okay, so on one level, it's reasonable, right? For all of the reasons that you said. This is why I said to that lady, what were your vows? Your vows were to follow your lead. You see, if a woman's gonna get married, right, which is the heart of community, by the way. If a woman's going to get married, then she's got to seriously make up her mind, right? Is this man worth me? Is this man a guy that I'm prepared to follow? If the answer is no, then leave him alone. Let him go and find another woman, right? If the answer is yes, then you, as a woman, you got to really work out what that means. Seriously, because this whole thing about women staying, do you know how many men I know, big men, right? Like 75, whatever, our parents' generation, that have left England and gone back to the Caribbean, left the wife here because she didn't want to come, right? So women have to really say, is that a man that I'm going to follow? Leave him alone if you're not going to do that. Seriously.
But then one could argue, why would a man want to be married in this country only to want to, it should be something that should be discussed beforehand, because this is obviously a big issue to to leave a nation, to leave a country,
I agree. It should be discussed. It should be discussed, right? But the bottom line is, right, for in a marriage, right? Sorry, I believe in traditional marriage. I know a lot of people don't. That's what I believe in, right? Because I've seen it work, right? So if anyone is going to put it this way, don't get married, right? If you're not prepared to follow your husband for the rest of your life as a woman. As weird as this sort of stuff sounds, right, to modern ears, and I know how weird it sounds, right, 20 years down the line, if your husband says, babe, we've done our job here, everything's cool, the kids are cool, what we're going to do now, this is what we're going to do. Yeah, you discuss it.
I hear that. I align and agree with that. But in the modern world, we have a different world where a woman might have a home career. And, this is one big element to factor in when people want to leave to different countries. People have established careers and opportunities here that they might not have elsewhere. So, this is the difference between then and now.
And you said it right? In the modern world. And so this is another thing regarding community. Men who want a community have to really think about the modern world where we're living. In other words, the West. And other places as too, because other places are becoming like the West. But men have to consider what they want. Do they want modern women, right? Are they modern men, right? But do they want to marry a modern woman, right? And if you do, understand that she may not want to follow you. Seriously. And so what does that mean for community? If women, wives, not just women, but wives, do not want to follow their husbands, what kind of community are you going to have? I'll leave it there.
Interesting, strong points. To end the stream, we're gonna touch on the women aspect as well. So we might have to bring that topic up. But okay, sure. What's on your mind with regards to working with Pookie and Ray Ray to build a stronger community?
it's a bad idea because it's gonna go the complete opposite road. You have to find someone that's more emotionally intelligent, someone that's more, smart in the sense of, making better financial choices and making better decisions. And, someone that isn't, bluff, and I'm telling you, that last live stream you said, if black British men should leave the country, or something along those lines.
Yep.
I remember there was this one dude that interrupted. He was so good. He first did a British accent, and then he did an American accent. We all know he was a black American, he just tried to, lie. But, I think that, you see a lot of Pookies in America, and then, sometimes they're so lost with how the British brothers are doing in the UK and stuff. But, one thing I have to say is that, if you want to start a business, you have to start having great relationships with the people that you work with. You have to have a long history. You have to know them very well. You can't just, meet someone online and then start from there. You have to, talk to them in person. The thing about me is that I'm more of an in-person dude. I'd rather talk to someone face to face of how I truly feel about them as opposed to, just, being quiet and, not saying anything.
Sure, I understand that. But you raise good points. But generally, to summarize, you don't believe it can work. Like progressive black people working with the Pookies and the Ray Rays to...
No.
No? Okay, strong, good points. Okay, guys, man. We've gone a little bit overboard with time, but hey, it's the final call-in, so I can allow for that. Please like the stream if you haven't liked the stream yet. If you're enjoying it, consider super chatting if you are able to show some support. We're going overtime. We're going into our sleeping patterns to bring out this information to you, so show some support. But as a last and final segue, man, and we need to talk about the relationship aspect. I guess this stream is more about rounding out all of the things that we typically talk about when it comes to the sort of black British streams. So, I mentioned the pro-blacks, the issues I've had with certain pro-blacks, just behaving in a certain way, like burning certain bridges because of certain ideas. And usually those ideas are surrounding interracial relationships, dating. And sometimes it's just simply for the fact that, hey, some people in this country have come to terms that, hey, we are surrounded by white people. We are like 3 to 4% of the population. So in many cases, we will be in relationships with non-black women, right? So I want to ask the panel, man, is that a component that weakens the so-called black British community? And also, I want to also ask, isn't interracial dating actually an act of being pro-black? And let me explain. Because, in various nations, we can even probably say also the US, the UK, there is this behavior of kind of protecting, in some cases, white women away from non-white men, right? So for me, when I think of the term pro-black, I kind of think that, especially how natives will see it, when a black or non-white person intermingles with a white person, they are kind of, quote unquote, for lack of a better term, darkening the race in a sense, right? So isn't, a lot of people cite the Moors, how they left Africa, North Africa, came into Spain, came into Europe, and were intermingling, doing all of that, and isn't interracial dating, marriage, also a case of being pro-black? You are, especially with this so-called one-drop rule that came from America, like a mixed race person is often seen as a black person, right? So in this final segue, we want to talk about the whole interracial aspect. Is it a burden to this whole idea of a black British community, or is it something beneficial and something that might be or shouldn't be frowned upon? To anyone on the panel.
When I think about it, what does the white, counterpart gonna do to help the community. You know, that's how I see it. You know, and in most
Mm-hmm.
cases, they don't care about the community. They just care about themselves and, you know, their side of the family and what they have to do. They don't care about black empowerment. You know, if they're in an
Okay.
interracial
Let me
relationship.
push back. Let me push back slightly to that, because that's a great question that a lot of people will say, right? Obviously, they're not black, so they will not have a position to assist you in certain ways. But what if, for example, that union kind of gives you more of a foothold into the culture, right? And I'm speaking a bit more abstract now, but like, you know, you are more you are introduced to aspects of the culture that you wouldn't otherwise have been if you were just in your little Jamaican or Nigerian British community, right? What if there is a element of being outgoing, being in certain environments, maybe the countryside? You're being more involved. You're being introduced to aspects of the British community, British society. I don't know, you know, maybe Stonehenge. You're going to Stonehenge and you're understanding these sort of things. You know, what if there is that aspect of bridging cultural gaps that we spoke about earlier in these unions?
You know, the thing is, like, they're not gonna understand, you know, the dynamic and, you know, what it's like to raise a black child, you know, I mean, a biracial child that they have with
Mm-hmm.
that, you know, counterpart. And in most cases, you know, that biracial kid is most likely going to end up having a confused identity. He's going to, you
Mm-hmm.
know, sometimes feel he's black one day and then another day he's going to feel white. And I know a lot of biracial people, you know, in terms of society, they're seen as black even though they're not. You know, they have two races and they're mixed. So, you know,
Mm-hmm.
they should embrace being mixed, and they need to. And you know, like, I see it a lot nowadays. Whenever I go, I always see a black man with a white woman everywhere I go, at Walmart or anywhere in public. It's so common now. But if you, back in the 70s and 60s, interracial relationship was illegal in, you know, in the United States. In some cases, you know, it was seen as like something that most people would think of as an illegal activity. And you
Do
know,
you can do? Would you like interracial unions to be illegal?
I think I don't think it should be illegal, you know, because everyone has a right choice to be with who they want to be. But I just don't see what purpose it can bring to the community and what it can
Mm-hmm.
have. Because in most cases, anytime a black man goes with a Becky, most likely he's going to become white inside, and he's going to start assimilating with the white community more than his own community, just like O.J. Simpson did. O.J. Simpson is a good example of that, because as soon as he started being around
Okay.
white
You're
folks,
raising
that's when,
you're raising good
yeah,
points, but okay, you know,
yeah,
you're Canadian, I'm British, so OJ Simpson is like a completely alien entity. But great
yeah,
point. Let's move on though. Let's move on. Anyone wants to chime in on that with regards
Yeah.
to IR dating? Yeah, sure.
Um, you know, as it says in the great book of Negro Relations,
Mm,
basically, the reality is it's inevitable, right?
mm,
When you have globalization, you have the improvement of transport systems right across the globe. Um, this is inevitable, right? There's no way you're going to reverse this. You have different races going over to different countries, right? You have different ethnicities in different countries building other people's lands, right? So procreation and, let's say, the inevitability of the increase of IR dating is pretty much gonna be inevitable, right? There was this scientist, I'll say, who was, I don't know if you've seen the photo of what the average human will look like in 2050, right?
mm-hmm.
And it was just a light-skinned human, right? That just looked basically racially ambiguous. You couldn't tell what it was, right? Or he or she, right? So it's inevitable, right? this idea of IR dating, oh, you shouldn't date this person, or you should date this person, or one race is against the other race dealing with whatever. I just think it's stupid in the end of the day, right?
Mhm.
And the reason why I say it's stupid is because you have something called balls and a penis, right? And you have a woman who has a vajayjay, right? So in the end of the day, you're designed to procreate with each other. In the end of the day, you're human. Yes, we have our
Mhm.
cultural differences, of course. Yes, we have different pigmentations, of course. But in the end of the day, we all bleed red, right? So the thing is, in my opinion, I just think it's foolish, really. The world is changing. People have got to accept that change, and they've just got to live with it, right?
Mm.
If you want to try and so-called keep the race pure, which that just cracks me up because to everyone's mixed in some sort of way after generation of whatever has been going on, whatever happy time that has been going on in the ancestral times, right? So it's it's we're not exactly, let's just say, pure black, right? Or we're pure this or we're pure that, right? There may be certain cases for certain lineages who have tried to keep up this, let's say, practice for generations to generations and kept it a tradition, probably. But
Mm.
if you do a DNA test, you could track back to pretty much a good couple of generations. So that's why I just think this IR dating stuff and this talk, it's just it's an effort that is just silly. Like, for example, you have I don't know, I see this in the States where, oh, black men are going over to get their passports and date women. I'm just
Uh-oh.
like, okay, cool, whatever. I just, all I'm saying is just be respectful of people's cultures and be respectful of the women that you are so called dealing with or not dealing, and also not dealing with, right? Just be happy. If you don't want to deal with black women or you don't want to deal with this person, you don't have to push it in their face. Just go and be happy and just get on with it. That's just really
Mhm.
my. That's just really it. Like when I
Yeah,
when
I
I'm
mean, I laughed at the point because it's like, you're trying to keep this whole pure black thing, but you're living in a country as an ethnic minority, So it's the reason why I started a lot of these streams is it's like the black people around me with these wild ideas. It doesn't seem like they understood the situation that they're in, right? So it's like this idea of pro-black in the whitest continent on the planet
right,
is it's like it. I don't understand.
mm,
It doesn't compute, and it goes with something that you were saying at the beginning, in a way, with regards to conformation with the culture, the traditions. It's like Pete. Some of us are just so un. How can I say? Just disjointed from what the situation is,
thank you.
and it's as if we are using American kind of ideas to
Yep,
illustrate or to make a pathway for our experience, to formulate things. It's like, nah, in many cases, just like in my life, it's happened, and it's just happened just like that. The better woman, like I've been around, and the woman who's there at the time, who might just not be, in many cases, not black, is there. I'm not gonna become some eunuch and hold back just because she's not black, or she's not of Nigerian origin. That doesn't make sense for most men. And
right.
and this is a
Yeah,
crazy thing, because I've met a lot of like so-called pro-blacks who are also kind of on the, I don't like using the term incel lightly, but they've never had relationship and stuff. So it's like, for that type of guy who never had a relationship, is probably coming to the age of 30 and wants to conduct himself in this pro-black manner, living in the UK, maybe outside of the London as well. It's like, bro, you're doing yourself some damage. You're not
right.
living your life like a human
100%.
being, you know?
Um, yeah, and also just so that after, let me just finish and then I'll let Diego Afe, because I know you're muted, so I know he wants to
Hmm.
talk.
Okay.
Another thing as well is what blacks have got to understand, right? And this is unfortunate to say, but they talk about representation, right? Now, blacks only make up 4% of the population. There's talks of there's not enough black coaches in football. There's not enough black coaches and there's not enough black in this and there's not enough black in that, right? Here's the reality. There's only 4% of you. There's only so much blacks could go around in certain institutions and industries, right? So there isn't enough blacks to go around in these industries. So yes, there isn't gonna be enough representation by default. Now, the thing is this, right? What I will say as well before I finish and before I close is that this interracial dating stuff, right? In the end of the day, I just think, well, if I see a black man saying that he is a Pan-Africanist in England, right? I'm sorry, I don't know. It's just me. I just can't take it seriously. Sorry, I can't. The reason why is you should be in a place called Africa. That's where your black people are, right? That's where your black people. If you're a Pan-Africanist, cool. Go over to Africa, right? Now, if you are so-called a black nationalist or a black British nationalist for black people in Britain, you may have a little shake in the in that discussion, right? But the reality is you're the minority and white Europeans are the majority here, and you just have to accept that reality, right?
Okay.
The border may be closing. I don't know what's going on with the bill or the immigration bill, whatever. I'm not gonna talk on that. That may have to be another discussion on another channel. But in my opinion, it's just silly, right?
Right. Great
You just have
points.
to
Great.
the reality. Anyway, I'm done.
Great points, bro. Great points. 1 second, Shaw. Shaw, after Diego, you go, and then anyone else after Shaw. Okay. I'm gonna have to mute Shaw because of that background noise. But Diego Efe, what's your views on this issue with IR dating and if it conforms or aligns with the idea of a so-called Black British community? If it adds anything to it or if it doesn't?
No, I don't think it does, to be honest. I would say because of, again, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but because of the idea of decentralized blackness, people are not really contributing to this idea of like a whole or some kind of like, should I say, collaborative projects that's supposed to benefit masses of people that are supposedly black. They're not doing that. So the easiest way to disqualify, albeit arbitrarily, someone's blackness or disqualify them from blackness is by, in quote, telling them sexually how they should be acting, what they shouldn't. Basically trying to impose sexual parameters on people. That's the most pro-black thing that a lot of people do. And what you'll find is that for some people, they believe that one gender it's entirely okay for them, and for another gender, they're cooning and they're selling out. And what I find very interesting about that, right, is that when the one gender is supposedly given an exemption and can retain their pro-blackness in a way that the other gender can't, they'll say that they're out here doing work on behalf of the community because they go to BLM rallies, BLM protests. So that's what the whole concept of pro-blackness has been relegated to. You see what I'm saying? So I would say that a lot of them, I think, for the reasons that you gave about, putting this podcast or this, these streams together is very pertinent because people, I don't think they're in the real world. I don't think they are in the real world. They use, obviously, the kind of talking points that they see hashed by some Americans, they see that as like a crutch for their own identity issues. But the bottom line is when the shoe don't fit, and America's a broad place, so trying to copy America is vain in itself because, where do you understand which part of America are you trying to copy? Because some of the talking points that emanate from certain people will not be uniform across the board. I think people need to ask themselves some serious questions. But if you look at the stats growth rates, if you will, Caribbean population has already peaked.
Mm,
The African
mm,
population has already peaked. Statistically, they've stopped growing. They're going out of existence. You understand? Even the mixed race demographic is, and when I say mixed race, I'm talking about black, Caribbean slash, white, British, black African slash white British. Even that's starting to kind of tail off, although it's at a higher rate. It's still growing at a higher rate than the Caribbean side. Now you're getting an increase in the people that are like, for example, 1/4 Filipino, 1/4 Irish, 1/4 Jamaican, 1/4. Now do you understand? You're now starting to get those
mm,
mixes. That there, you can look at the stats, which kind of speak to that. That indicates that the assimilation within Britain of like so-called ethnic minorities is accelerating. It's far beyond the path, and so when it comes down to interracial dating and stuff, I mean, it interracial dating, mating, and all that, it's inevitable. I'm with a black woman, but I'll say it straight. At the end of the
mhm,
day, as much as I tend to have a preference for that, or for black women, that is. I'm gonna be honest with you, man. Like at the end of the day, I'm not with her necessarily because she's black, if that makes sense. And although most of the
mhm.
women, practically almost all the women I've been involved with have been, but it's not been necessarily for those reasons. Do you understand? Because
Right.
two black people cannot get together just based off being black. You can't.
Mhm.
It will never work. If there's some kind of sexual pull or there's some type of I don't know, something nebulous or weak that can hold together, very soon it will become evident that these are two incongruent individuals that cannot be reconciled into one unit. And I think
Mhm.
a lot of the people that speak about pro black, you need to be mating with another black person, this, that, and the other. A lot of them, they don't care about your life experiences. They don't care about the challenges you're dealing with. They don't care about the consequences of certain decisions you're making on your life. They want you to not live in order to, massage. You understand what I'm trying to say? In order for them to be gratified. So it
Right.
just doesn't make sense. I think there's a lot of like functional mental illness where people feel that they have a birthright to tell people
Mhm.
what to
To
do. So
right.
you understand they're railing against what is an inevitable part of human existence.
Mhm.
And like I said, it just for me, they need more self-awareness. The idea of being pro-black, as far as I'm concerned, I put it down ultimately to like your black liberation politics. That's when I think of pro-black, that's what I put it down to. You gotta go back a few decades ago, all that kind of civil rights era, Black
Mhm.
Panthers, and in the US, the UK, the Black Panther UK chapter, the Mangrove Nine, those
Mhm.
that initially protested at the Notting Hill um, demonstrations before it became a carnival. Was it in '76 or whenever it was? These are the kind. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? Nowadays, what are people agitating for on behalf of other people that is measurable and universally recognized as a
Mhm.
bona fide movement to improve the conditions of black people? You don't have
Right.
that. You
Right.
understand? You get my point, right? You don't have it in even the people that call themselves Pan Africans. I've met some Pan Africanists that have some of the worst prejudices against neighboring ethnic groups. They actually hate them more than they hate, in quote, white people. I'm not saying they should
Absolutely.
hate white people, but then when you ask them why they hate their neighbor, they can't even articulate it. It's because someone told them one story or another. So most of the black people that push Pan-Africanist, like identify self-styled Pan-Africanist, pro-blackness, man, I'm gonna tell you, they ain't shit. I'm just keeping it real, man. But anyway, I'll pass it
Mhm.
on.
Generational curse.
All right, yeah,
Unexplainable discontent with your neighboring fellow, human being. But yeah, SHA-25. What's on your mind?
yeah, like what he said. The thing is, pertaining to interracial relationship is
Sorry, actually, Shah, did you speak on interracial already? Did I come to you? I might have forgotten.
no, no, not yet. Now it's my
Okay,
turn.
okay, okay.
Yeah, yeah. Thing about interracial relationship nowadays is that it generally is very common, but it doesn't last as long pertaining to blacks and whites because as soon as like it's according to statistics that it's usually Asian women that date white men and quote unquote black men that date white women, but it's proven that it doesn't really last that long, amongst blacks and whites, because it just it just ends up in
Is there a statistic that proves that, or is that anecdotal?
It's anecdotal, and there's statistics, that proves that, it doesn't really last that long, as soon as like the child grows up, and stuff like that,
Isn't that congruent with most modern day kind of wedding stats, or I assume you're using marriage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wait, fucking! I hear some sort of like background noise. Is that coming from my end or someone else?
It's coming from your end, definitely, because my house is very silent tonight. It's 1:30 a.m. So can you fix that, and then we can come back?
Cool.
Yeah. Okay. I think who hasn't? I think it's either Kings and Queens, and we've got Yahoo Shah. If you want to speak about, if interracial dating actually does something negative towards the whole idea of a Black British, community.
Yeah, I'll let King go first, man.
Yeah, of course. He gets the British privilege because you're not even British. Okay, cool.
It's an interesting one, Okay, so when I was about 18, 17, my mom said to me, she doesn't want me to bring home any white girl, right? She said to me, she hasn't worked. She said it in Jamaican, obviously. She said she's not come to this country and killed herself working and gone through all of her nonsense in a racist country. She didn't use the word racist, but that's basically what she meant. She hasn't gone through all of her crap that she had to go through in this country, literally from 66 up until whenever I was 18, right? For me to come and give her money to a white girl, right? That's basically what she said, right? And I didn't disagree with her, but what I did say to her, Mum, why'd you come here then? If you look around, Mum, everyone is white. Who am I gonna there's no one, there's more white girls here, right? So what she said, I fully respect. but she came to the wrong country for that. As you said, there's 4% non-white people. I don't know if that even includes Asian people as well, but I'm not sure about that. And back then, right, it was even less black people there, right? So it's not that I thought she was wrong. I just thought she came to the wrong country. It's as simple as that. Because it was and is a fully racist country. All of the statistics points towards pure racism. That white people wrote a report, right? The Stephen Lawrence report. We might think it's a lot of nonsense, but they wrote a report saying how their police force was institutionally racist, right? So you see, we think it's a lot of nonsense. We spoke about Bernie Grant earlier on in the stream. He basically stood up in his African robes talking about racism in the Houses of Parliament, right? Even though he's married to a white woman. But to me, that I'll come to that in a minute, right? So institutional racism in the UK is something that white people have documented, let alone black people. They have documented about their state systems. If we don't have to forget about what other black people have said, they've said it about themselves, right? And so that's Scarman and all the rest of it, right? So that's that, right? And it's so come back to interracial dating now. So it's interesting because for me, right, I find it very, as a kid in my teens and 20s, yeah, I dated white women. But as I learned about racism, right, in this country, right, and what my family had to go through, and had gone through, and what I had gone through, getting stopped and searched by the police for nothing, just driving about in the West End, right, years ago, right, and then the police stopping us. What are you stopping us for? Oh, the IRA are planting bombs in the West End, right? So okay, so why are you stopping us? Well, so what are you stopping us for? And it's funny, right? But they stopped and searched us, got us all out of the car, stopped and searched us for what? Do we look like the IRA? Seriously, right? That's the excuse these people gave, right? And I could give you a whole and so people's lived experiences that I personally know, right? it's and you know, anyway, I'm not going to go into that, right? So all of that, and so I find it very so. You find I find beautiful women, beautiful white women, beautiful. There's beautiful black women. There's all kinds of beautiful women, left, right, and center, right? But personally, right, I would prefer my wife is Nigerian Ghanaian, right? I would prefer that black men, black people marry black women, right? But,
Mm-hmm.
but this is the problem, though. This is the problem for me, anyway, right? Sadly, we've got a bunch of modern black women, right, who don't want to take orders from black men, right? They break their own homes, run around doing all kinds of, and if a lot of black Western women, I'm not talking about black women on the African continent or in South America or in the well, forget the Caribbean for a minute, right? Right. We've got a lot of rank-faced black women in the West that like argue and front you and all this kind of, and so listen, right? What I'm not going to begrudge any black man, right, for getting with a woman who wants to get on his program, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you've got, listen, if you, there is, and listen, I'm a Pan-Africanist. I've been a Pan-Africanist for 30 years, right? And I've come to the conclusion, right, that you've got, listen, the reason why the Pan-African community or the so-called Pan-African community in the UK and America has gone nowhere is because one, you've got a lot of, listen, these Pan-Africanist communities in the West, not necessarily on the African continent, but in the West, are full of womanists and misandrists, and they're full of feminists in what used to be called now they're called pro-black. I never used, in this country, we never used the term pro-black. We say Pan-Africanist, right? Or conscious community. We never used the term pro-black. I don't even know. The only place I've heard this term pro-black is in this manosphere space. No one else uses it, right? So no, so you got to get in where you can get in. I mean, if all of
Right.
your women are not interested in following your lead as a black man, in fact, if your women disrespect you daily, right, are rent rude and feisty and all the rest of it, think your leadership is crap, right? If that white woman over there, or that Asian woman, or that Filipino woman, not that, yeah, or whatever, wants to get on your program, right, then go and do that. Because at the end of the day, black women need to, as far as you can forget, there cannot be any community, no Pan-African anything in the West. None of it is going to work if all of your women simply are carry on the way they've been carrying on, not only in the not only in the regular space, but in the Pan-African, they all do it. Sorry, and this is the truth, and that's why this is the main reason why Pan-Africanist organizations have built nothing, generally speaking.
Uh-oh.
The women who basically have this, because they're all bullshit, misandrous feminists, and they occupy Pan-Africanist spaces, and that's the God. It's the truth.
The woman is God. I mean, come on, the woman is God. I mean,
well, that's an American thing, the whole woman is God thing and all that. I'm not really talking about that. I'm talking about black women who simply refuse in Pan-Africanist spaces. Forget about black men saying they're gods, good queens, or whatever. Right? Put that aside. Generally speaking, in the black communities in the West, black women, whether they're in Pan-Africanist spaces or just in the so-called what used to be termed the black community, right? These group of black women simply refuse to respect you as a black man, refuse to follow your lead, right? And laugh at you when you say that you're, they laugh at you, right? And they're all baby mamas in Pan-Africanist spaces. Most
kings and queens. Can I ask you a somewhat private question though? Because we all know that you're married, right?
Yeah.
You're married to a black woman, right?
Nigerian Ghanaian, yeah, black, yeah.
And she's like British generally.
She was born in the UK, but I'm one of the lucky ones, Falcon. She's a very traditional woman. I'm not gonna lie. If you see her on my stream one day, I vetted her for about 6 years. Vetted her. I'm not gonna lie. I tell her that. I vetted her for 6 years. Why? Because basically, listen, your biggest mistake, if you're not careful, is marrying a woman, right, who basically ain't gonna get on your program.
But I mean, if you've done it, isn't then the answer to vet like you have? Like, isn't to just be very privy to what the woman displays and all of that? Isn't I mean you I mean I'm sure there's you've done it, so surely other black men in Britain can do it, right?
Yeah, one day I'm going to give you the full story. But listen, young
Mhm.
black men have no idea what to look for, right? The reason why women dance on TikTok and show their backsides and all the rest of that sort of stuff, right? There's a big reason why. Listen, have you ever? I don't want to sidetrack what you're saying, but listen, when you go out on a date with a woman, not that I would when you go on a coffee date with a woman, right? Has a woman ever said to you? You don't have to answer this, but has a woman ever said to you, "This feels like an interrogation"? There's
Nope.
reasons. Okay, she has to me. There's reasons why women say that. It's because they want you simply to make your biggest choices in life based on how they look, right? And
Mhm.
they do not. No Western woman wants you to interrogate their brain, right? And what they're like and all the rest of it, because they know they'll come up short. They simply want you to make your biggest. The moment you start vetting like that, most modern women will walk off and walk away.
Okay,
Looking
but you see, my response to your question was no. Okay, and that's the honest truth. No one has ever given me that sort of response. So I guess
for
what I'm kind of saying is that and most of the women I've been with, Western women from various different countries, is that surely because I've got people that have come on to these panels and they all say blanket statements, modern women are this, that. But you have the you are a lucky man who found a wifeable, somewhat westernized woman. I've
she's
had
not she's not perfect, but
right,
in the
right, exactly. They're never going to be perfect, but I
no,
mean,
but in the areas that count.
basically, what I'm trying to say is that I had the common kind of sense or the anti-simp energy to determine who is worthy of my time and who is not. So surely there is hope. Surely the answer isn't just okay. All British modern women are trash. So go overseas, for example,
Okay,
because
so
then that might be another trap, right?
well, there's traps everywhere. But here's the thing, right? Here's the thing. As Muhammad Ali said, right? You got a load of snake. You got 50 odd snakes coming down towards you, right? Right.
Hmm.
You know, one of them's got no fangs, right? So what are you gonna do? You're gonna open up your door and try and find out, or you're gonna close your door, right? You see, here's the thing, right? Sadly, and I say sadly, I'm not knocking women in the West. What I'm actually saying is we've all been enculturalized in the West. We've all been socialized here. We went to the schooling, fooling, whatever you want to call it,
Hmm.
system in the UK, whatever, right? Now this disease of womanitis, it's everywhere. It's on the African continent. It's in the Philippines or wherever you want to go. It's everywhere. There's just a lot less infection elsewhere, right? So you've got more of a chance of getting a woman who's going to stick around in the West. Yeah, you might
Elsewhere.
get lucky. Yeah, you might get
Yeah,
lucky.
but I mean, I think for me, there is obviously going to be other constraints. There's going to be a language barrier that you have to master. There's going to be in some countries you can't you can't have full ownership of homes, for example. There is a whole society that you need to understand and learn. So you're coming in as a secondary, a real life second class citizen. So there's
Absolutely.
kind of pros and cons to all arrangements, right?
Yeah, no, yeah, absolutely. There are pros and cons, you see, and this is the big way up, isn't it? So here's the dice you got to roll, right? I'm talking generally now, right?
Hmm.
Do I want to roll the dice in the UK and marry a modern Western woman, right? Is that the dice I want to roll now? You've got your assets in the UK, you've got your business here, you got you earn, I don't know, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90,000 pounds in the UK. You bought your own flat, apartment, or house or houses in
Hmm.
the UK. You got your inheritance from your dead granddad, right? You got all of these assets. You got all of these assets here, right? And you're going to chance that and marrying a modern Western woman in the UK who knows the system, right? The divorce system probably better than you, right? So okay, good. So that's one dice you can roll, or you can learn French, Spanish, tree and ga, whatever you want to learn, right? You can take those lessons and you can say, all right, I can't necessarily buy a property or land here, there, or wherever I want to buy, but I can do this, I can do that, I can do the other. Yeah, it's work, So take your pick. Honestly,
Okay.
that's a toss up.
Yeah. I mean, I mean, great dialogue. I mean, yeah, it's just like food for thought in general. But okay, yeah, Yahoo Show, you came fairly late to the debate, but I'll let you have the final say when it comes to your idea of interracial dating and black men. Are you a sellout, or is there is it a fair reason to do so when you're in a country surrounded by another ethnic group in terms of demographic size?
So my personal thought is that I'm not really so much of a fan of it. But I mean, yeah, I guess I also am one of these pro-black incels that you were talking about.
So why aren't you a fan of interracial dating in your country?
Well, I'm not a fan of it for a lot of different reasons. Some of it was the spiritual reasons, kind of relating to stuff that you were saying about, different curses and stuff like that. I have a lot of opinions on that, but I guess I am coming in kind of late. So, but I mean, also it hardly ever really works. I mean, I have a cousin, and I guess he ended up getting this white woman pregnant, but she wasn't just any white woman. I don't think. I think she was her family was kind of connected to money or something like that. So basically, what ended up happening is it was still in the South. So I guess they had the baby, and I guess they just kind of gave him the baby, and that was that.
Okay, but
So,
you lamented on, I brought up the kind of pro-black incel. Have you ever had a relationship with any type of woman?
yeah. When I was in high school, so that was
But
that was some
okay,
time ago.
outside,
Yeah.
have you had one like as a full-grown adult?
Not since like 2010. Nah.
Okay, but then okay, would you not be open to someone who seems to be a reasonably sound person, sound woman, attractive to you, but she just doesn't happen to be black? Are you saying that this person you will turn down and would not pursue anything, any type of relationship with? Is that your position?
Uh, Most likely, yeah. And it's not like, hate or anything because I grew up, with the military background. So I grew up seeing a lot of, mixed kids and things of that nature and grew up with a lot of different races or things like that. So it's not really hate or anything like that. I mean, some of it has to do, a lot of it is just spiritual. But I mean, if I'm going to skip ahead of that, some of it is just, I don't think it really functions as well. I mean, I have seen statistics where, I mean, as bad as the black on black marriage rate is, I mean, the white on black marriage rate is even worse, at least when it's a black man and a white woman. Whereas if
No,
it's a
but
white man,
I guess for our position,
yeah,
I mean, we're talking about an entry relationship position, right? So we're not really again talking about marriage. It's more so dating and for you to kind of bust your nut, like to be straight up. So are you saying that
yeah.
you will decline? I don't know, a pog, someone who fits your whatever you want in a woman, just on the basis of her being white, as someone who lives in America. Is that really your
Well,
position?
I'm not really saying I've never busted a nut with someone who isn't, a woman who isn't black. But what I'm saying is, at this point, I don't really believe in sex outside of marriage. So it would either be just marry the woman or just don't have sex. So I guess I just don't have sex. But I mean, I guess some of you old world guys are kind of behind the curve because I mean, there is Brazil, and if you want to see what a whole country of like, various mixed race people look like, you can kind of look at Brazil, and it's not always the most functional because, I mean, you're always going to have, yeah, some people are mixed, but some people are more mixed than others. Some people are kind of, 20% black, 80% white, 90% white, this and that. And things are still going to divide on those lines. So you're never really going to get this whole sort of perfect mixed race utopia that some people seem to be wishing. I mean, Brazil has had 100 years to kind of work that out, and they've literally done it with government policy. It was an official thing that they did. There was that famous painting, and it hasn't worked out for them. I don't think it's going to work out for anyone else.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, nice point, succinct point. But listen, guys, man, I've had enough of all of you. 3 hours, 50 minutes, the final call-in show. So I'm afraid we're gonna have to. We have to. Wait. Nah.
Is this the last live stream?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. So we're gonna call it a night. You know, I know you guys. if you can go with last closing thoughts that will be wrapped up in like 60 seconds, that will be appreciated. But we need to close it out as soon as possible because this is the longest call-in show. I want to just do the favor, you know, close up properly. But if we can go closing thoughts, 60 seconds, Shah25, you can go first since you came on first, and then we will do that, okay?
Yeah, in regards to IR relationships,
is this your closing thought in 6 seconds, right?
All right, guys, this was a great panel, and this was a great, talk pertaining to issues, and, I wish you guys all the best. Bye-bye.
Okay, peace to you, Shah. Appreciate you for coming on. Anyone want to go next with closing thoughts? 1 minute.
Yeah, I'll just go quite quick. Listen,
sure.
You've been a blessing, Falcon. So listen, I invite you anytime as I do the rest of the panel up onto my stream. Do come up, do have a chat, and don't be a stranger. Peace.
For sure, I appreciate that. Thanks, Kings and Queens. Salute to you. Check out Kings and Queens channel. Feel free to put your link down in the chat if you can. Anyone wants to go next with closing thoughts?
So I'll go. So basically, to close the 60 seconds, right? Yeah. I may not be a Pan-Africanist, but I'm definitely a pro of pan pizza, right? I may not be a pro-black, but I'm definitely pro-chicken. Now, what I want to say is, appreciate the stream, but before I close off, right, last 15 seconds, for the black people who are having this American talking points, and I don't have any issues with Americans, I appreciate them and I understand that they had to struggle too, is that when Chris Cabot, when Jack Duggan was shot by the cops, was the Americans marching? But when George Floyd got killed, the whole world was marching.
Okay.
When Trayvon Martin got killed, who was marching? Just something to think about. That's my closing thoughts. Take care.
It's awesome having you on as always, man. So salute to you.
No worries.
Hopefully see you soon. But peace to Jesse McQuilkin Talks in the building. Who wants to go next with closing thoughts? Yep.
Okay, I'll go. I'll do my gone in 60 seconds.
Appreciate it.
So as far as your title is concerned, I certainly do think black people are cursed. I think that most black people, I actually do think, are descendants of Hebrews, and they're cursed because of that. West Africans and Bantus, I think, whenever you look at slavery, it's always the same sort of DNA, E1B1A type DNA. I think all these Negroes are cursed because of that. I don't tend to think that inner IR is the answer. I do think maybe it's best to just save your seed. But I appreciate your podcast, and I always found the Yoruba people and culture to be very interesting. I think I'm wearing a Yoruba right now. Probably the most interesting culture in Africa. When you have a lot of people, they want to say, oh, black people, African people, we're just doing this and that. But Yoruba artwork is some of the best in the world, and it really kind of forced people to, come off that and be like, okay, they had metal working, they had iron working and this and that. versus the sort of images that they wanted to display of Africans, which we know is pretty awful. So yeah, thanks for
Appreciate
that.
it.
And thanks for your podcast. And I hope you
Salute.
keep going in one form or another. And yeah, peace out, man.
Salute. Yeah, I appreciate that, man. Good having you on. To Yashua Reborn. Salute to you. Salute. Great points throughout the stream. And last but not least, we've got Diego If in the building. If we could just end off with final thoughts in 60 seconds.
Yeah, sure, no problem, man. Thanks for putting on this stream. I know that I guess it's perhaps a bit of an encore because the last one we were expecting would be the final stream. I do hope sincerely that you do subsequent streams, even if it's not part of like a season or a schedule. As you said, maybe discretion in the month or that type of thing. Because I do think it's needed. And as you said when you gave like the overview of different personality types within these spaces, there are people that do value this stuff, even if they don't entirely realize it. There's perhaps like almost like an internal kind of warfare or conflict where they're exposed to information which they cannot dispute its cogency or validity, but at the same time they're very sculpted in their ways. So nevertheless, man, I appreciate what you've done, and even when it comes to super chats moving forward, I'll be able to do so, but I've just not been in a position to do so up until this point. So
hey man, that's cool, man. I appreciate your input, man. That you've always been a solid contributor to the stream, so I appreciate that, man. It's not just about super chat. I appreciate you coming on, being honest, being sincere, being frank, not being shady like all the other archetypes that I've mentioned, Like, nah, I appreciate you, Gil, man. Don't need to say about the super chats.
Okay, man. No, I appreciate, man. I appreciate you for having me on, and yeah, whatever formats you choose to use moving forward, I respect. I support you wholeheartedly. So
I appreciate that, man. So salute to Diego Ife, man. Always been in the building, always giving out facts. Check out his channel as well. So feel free to drop your links in the chat as well. So salute to you. Peace, bro.
Peace.
And with that being said, man, oh my god, a 4-hour live stream, man. That is some lame everyone who came up on the panel, everyone who donated via super chat, everyone who shared their thoughts in the live chat, anyone who's gonna comment below the video after this stream is off the air. I appreciate you too. Hit the like button if you enjoy these talking points. But I've got a whole series and whole playlists of these live streams, so check them all out. Okay, especially if you're inclined towards the call-in shows. Loads of videos on that. But yeah, moving forward, for the foreseeable future, I want to kind of button down on my pre-recorded editing, short to the point videos on topical issues pertaining to us, right? But I want to appreciate everyone who contributed to this format as well. So yeah, I would consider keeping some calling shows at some points, but yeah, going forward, man, I need to when there's fatigue, it means and when there's the 5 archetypes, the 5 ninjas that I've mentioned in the stream as well, it kind of becomes a burden, right? Dealing with certain types of people on a consistent basis who already contribute. It's just pure negativity, right? It's like, what's the point? Do you know what I mean? But salute to everyone who's always been a part of the streams, man. Everyone who hit the super chat as well. Hope you all have a good night. I think a few people are still live now, so go and check them out. But with that being said, I'm out. Peace.